broken baker, where crimes are baked in every show, mysteries rise and truth unfolding. Ready, set, it's time to go. We say it's time to go. Whistling clues, battering news, mixing stories, solving the lies. In this kitchen, secrets are broken with a spark in our eyes. In the broken baker's kitchen, the secrets crumble, lies don't rise. We'll sift through clues to find the news with a spark in our eyes. The broken arrive. Broken arrive. Welcome to the broken baker. Get ready. Let's go.
I'm Jimmy. How y'all doing?
The most important people in this case that everybody seems to have forgotten in this room is the jury. So we're going to take a 15-minute break and both sides take a pregnant pause and think about the jury.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whoever you are, whatever you are, what if any you might be. And normally I would have notified you on Twitter, but I have been banned on Twitter for saying to someone who was telling me something stupid that they should go sit on a cactus. That is too violent for Elon Musk's Twitter. I'm just going back to bed because go sit on a cactus is hate speech. What happened to the good old days where you can tell people, go sit on a cactus? Hey, Helen from Holland, stay away from the cacti. Today we will learn how to pickle our vegetables so you can stash them in your basement without the smell alerting the neighbors. Yes, a good brine will keep smells away. Just want to confirm you're talking vegetables. Brandon is our new vegetable de jour guy. He will give you a new recipe every day. Brining on a budget with Brandon will be the new segment every Monday at 12. Hey, Kiki. I'm brokenhearted. Peter Way. Hannity. Good Sunday morning to all. It's going to be a beautiful day. Well, not in Denmark where it's been gray and raining all day. Hello, Andrea. That doesn't sound like free speech. No, I thought Papa Elon was really heavy into free speech. But you can't say, go sit on a cactus. But they can put in... I was answering someone who said he wouldn't listen to Brandy Churchwell because she's a meth dealer. That's okay. You can say that. But I can't tell him to go sit on a cactus. I thought those days were over on social media, but AI caught me. It is a little redonkulous. Hey, Melissa. Oh, so Jamie, if you're here, Jamie doesn't listen. I need to send you because I can't send you DMs. So if you want to join, it's on the Discord. That's why everyone should join the Discord, where you can say, go sit on a cactus. It's just stupid. Go sit on a cactus is violent speech. 2 days ago, my feed was flooded with people beating other people because of their religion in Holland. That was A-okay. Twitter is full of people saying they are going to go out and get... because someone voted a certain way in an election. But sit on a cactus, that's where we draw the line. Hey, Diana. It's the Smurf army from the Karen Reed case. I was just recommending everyone, and I still do that. If you want to have the good podcast about, the Karen Reed case, you must listen to Brandy's because she has clearly the highest quality in her podcast. There's some guy who started making it, and he's jumped on the Karen Reed is guilty, so all the Smurf is promoting him. So every time anyone mentions anything, they'll go in and say, "Oh, Brandy is a dopehead." Brandy made mistakes in her past. Brandy paid for her mistakes. So what? Everyone you are claiming you're supporting in Canton was drunk driving that night. None of you had problems with that. Your leader of your Smurf army lost her 2 kids because of her, but that's okay. Don't bring it up. It's in her past. Doink the clown is wasted every time he does anything. But yeah, let's bring up 25-year-old stuff with Brandy because we're the moral high ground. No, you're the idiots. I normally don't do drama, but I'd like to do drama with all of those people. Yeah, that Phelps dude. Yeah. I don't know who he is. Hey, Nina Canadian. And Adelaide Lass. We were just waiting for you so we could get to day 5 because, well, he is. It seems like it. There's a lot of people. I see your true color. All of a sudden. Everyone has a past, yes. And she's been open about her past. Admitted she did some bad stuff. Oh boy. Luckily, I've been in court once, but that was because I was had my nose broken. I've done a lot of stuff that could have landed me in trouble. So what? I'm 27 years old now and I'm grown up. But these people, they'll always just go for the jugular because they have nothing in their life other than this hate for Aiden that they have to project onto everyone. If Aiden left the Karen Reed case today and said, well, I'm going to cover Birchmore, all of these people would be free Karen Reed tomorrow because all of their hate towards Karen is just because Aiden doesn't sit well with them, which is absolutely stupid. But the IQ on that side is lower than my shoe number, and I have small feet. Carolina Hurtado became a member. Thank you so much. I think I've seen you, but maybe, I don't know. Thank you for becoming a member. Danny T is the only one who never made a mistake in her life. Yeah, it's again, and as long as you paid for it, I think all these people who claim a lot of the good book and all of that, they forgot the part where Jesus says forgiveness. We all have. No, and again, I use my stupidity to teach my kids not to do the same mistakes. That's why you make all the mistakes, to try and learn from them. There aren't any mistakes in life, just unhappy accidents. and happy trees on Peter A's paintings. You should all go watch those. Yeah, and again, it doesn't matter that you had a rough period. I was drinking way too heavily when I was 20. Now I'm 27. I drink a beer a week most weeks, and that's only because me and Brandon has a deal about that. I don't touch it. I don't. If I go out partying, I go hard, but I don't want to go back to being who I was when I was 20. So I do it with reason. Woohoo! Hot dang, diggity dang. Yeah, and we had disposable cameras, and we always forgot to get the pictures, so no one knew how much stupid we did. Why don't Zach? Because I am blocked on Twitter. Hey, Regina. I'm 56 and made a ton of mistakes. Just made me a stronger, wiser person. Yeah, life is about mistakes. That's what my dad told me. They said when they got me, and you learn from them. Oh, you don't. Luckily, most of us will get smarter with age. Zach never makes mistakes, and he has no regrets. I love your Saturday night, late night live streams. Oh, so you must be an Aussie, since no, that can. I don't do Saturday night live. I do Saturday early morning. I'm making mistakes because I got banned on Twitter for saying someone should sit on a cactus. That's violent speech. But enough about my violent past. Let's get to day 5 in the McKinley Louisma case, because I think tomorrow the court will be off, but there might be a hearing in the Lake and Riley case. So I want to keep the option open to go live if it happens. What's saying? Who? What? Sit on a cactus?
My name's under oath. You can go ahead. I'm sorry.
The last witness we were at was the lady who photographed all the evidence at the scene. We had the DNA person, then we had the one who collected all the DNA samples. So it was the other way around. Remember, none of the DNA pointed to Louisma.
Good morning. Good morning. Your Honor, if we could, yesterday we were the part of the examination where we were publishing some photos. If I could have that screen back.
We need that.
I didn't even say he should put it up somewhere. I was about to say that, but then I couldn't spell it, so I just said, sit on a cactus.
All right, publishing now. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gomet, yesterday when we were breaking for the day, we were starting to talk about this palm print that you located on the defendant's vehicle. If I understood your testimony correctly, you noted that you did not process the entire vehicle for prints, and that was partially due to not being asked, and because we knew who the parties were in the vehicle. Is that right?
Correct.
So what about this print that's seen in 18SS caused you, or why was this one developed?
We just noticed it was a very obvious print on the side of the vehicle there, so we decided to process it and collect it.
And I think you started to describe for us, you mentioned developing it with a white powder.
Correct.
Can you explain that process to us?
Sure. So we're just going to have a brush, and we'll have a container with white powder. We'll dip the brush in the powder and gently circle it over the print, and it'll collect on the ridge lines of a fingerprint. And then we will then put tape over that print and lift that print and put it down onto a transparency, or like a clear piece of paper.
And in 18SS, at this point, is the print developed?
That is just a photo before the white powder.
In 18TT, has the white powder been added to this print?
Yes.
And when the print is collected, are you the person who processes the print?
Once it's back at the laboratory?
I guess, do you do anything with the identification of who this print belongs to?
No.
Can you tell us what we're seeing in 18 UU?
Those are items, I believe, that were found on the rear window ledge behind the back seats.
18 VV, can you tell us what we're seeing in this photograph?
That is a Walmart receipt for an OT machete.
And from this receipt, well, firstly, can you tell us where this receipt was located within the car?
Oh, yeah, you said Saturday Night Live, and I don't do them on Saturdays. I do them Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays so far. So stay up tonight, and I'm going half an hour earlier because I tend to go longer. So I need a little sleep before the gym.
I believe that was in the front seat area.
Can you tell us the date on this receipt?
It was dated February 14th, 2024, at
Appro-
1704.
Perfect. Out of the receipts that were located in the vehicle, were you able to determine how many separate machetes had been purchased?
I believe we thought there might have been 2, and also based on the packaging we found.
Okay. The other receipt that you found showed purchase for 2 machetes, correct?
Yes.
And this receipt shows a purchase for a 3rd machete?
Yes.
So at least 3 machetes have been purchased.
3 based on the receipts, 2 based on the packaging we found.
And this was also at Walmart?
That one, yes.
And when I say this one on 18 VV was a Walmart receipt?
Yes.
18 WW, can you tell us which part of the vehicle we're looking at?
That is the front driver's seat.
And in this photograph, is there something specifically that your attention was drawn to?
So I'm showing the relative position of that black handle you can see sticking out between the seat and the center console,
Will you point that out with your laser pointer up there?
Where?
right here.
Where?
And moving to 18XX, have we then zoomed in
Oh,
on
there.
that handle?
Yes.
And what was that a handle to?
That was a handle to a machete that was inside a black sheath.
And the machete that was pulled from between the center console and the
Not even though I am apparently a violent speaker, but that's a really stupid way to store your machete if you want to. And a machete is a really stupid weapon to have inside a car because it's long, and you'll have to pull it out from down here. You'll hit the dashboard, or you'll have to swing it this way. So there's potential you could nick your legs, and you can't swing it because it'll hit the roof. Not that I should be instructing anyone, but if you want to have a sharp object for close protection, get a shorter one in a car. It's all about. Hope I don't get blocked for violent speech on that one.
driver's seat. Is that the machete that we're seeing in 18YY?
Yes.
18ZZ, is that the same machete?
Yes.
Is there a reason that when you photograph items like a machete or a knife, that
Pokey
both
poke.
sides are photographed?
We just want a clear representation of the item from all different angles.
What are we seeing in 18AAA?
So in this photo, we've removed the machete from the sheath so that you can see the actual knife.
And BBB, is that the same machete but the opposite side of the blade?
Correct.
And again, it's stupid to. Again, what do I know? But this is where the balance is, because it's used to remove brush, so it's blade heavy and or tip heavy. So you can't really getting a shorter pokey poke is way more efficient. I'm just saying, if a bear tries to get into your car or something, yeah, but then you would still have to remove it, and you're trying to get that bear out of your car. Having something this size that you can just jack, way easier, way easier. That's why you have it. Well, I used to have it on my frac vest. I had it on this side so I could just, and it was ready to go. This is a machete. Yeah. We need that for camping to go pee over here. Clear the bush. Well, you could manscape a little before, well, ladyscape before it gets that bad. When you wing it, the blade will go flying, or you'll just have a handle in your hand. Yeah. Again, I think these used it as close defense, which is not. Again, something this size.
Tell us what we're looking at in 18 CCC.
Can have it easy.
That was just a small stain on the very tip of the machete.
Just the tip.
And what about that, if anything, that small stain drew your attention to it?
We were looking at the machete to see if we noticed any residue or staining on it. That was the only thing we noticed. It was a very small amount and seemed fairly insignificant. The machete was collected, but we didn't swab that area or anything because of the small size.
And what does the small size have to do with your decision on whether?
No. Well, maybe. Because so far, the only thing linking him to it is they were talking on the phone that night, and she was in his car, and he was with them when they bought the tools used to do stuff to her. There's no DNA on her, in her orifices, anywhere that connects him to doing it. His defense is, I was there, but I didn't do the chippity chop. She was asphyxiated, and then she wasn't parted, but they did go to town on her. But so far, I don't know how much he was participating in doing it. He used to be boyfriend, girlfriend with him. She had the mental age of 14, even though she was 20 years old. So the witnesses who knew them have been a little sketchy as well. So, but there's a whole lot of evidence not here so far, but maybe it'll get here today.
Or not to swab that?
The size not necessarily influencing the decision, but it didn't appear to be apparent blood because it's pretty light in color. And so at the time, we just decided to collect the machete and have it in evidence, but we didn't end up submitting that particular one to the lab at the time.
18DD, can you tell us the items that are seen in this photograph, where they were recovered from within the vehicle?
All those items were in an open compartment under the radio.
Affixed to that console area?
Yes.
And can you tell us what we're looking at in this photograph as far as items that were recovered?
In this photograph, there's a black wallet there, a receipt, that duct tape roll that's used, and a folding pocket knife for the main items of interest there.
And the item to the right of the pocket knife, would this be a black-handled pick or a black-handled comb?
Yes, something like that.
And again, on the white sheet, there are words in the bottom left-hand corner that say Honda Accord compartment under radio. Is that either something you or your partner wrote on that white sheet?
Yes.
And was that also done to help you identify where these items came from when you go back and look at pictures?
Correct.
Well, she's the one who tested and then sent it to the lab to figure out what it is. So that's why they were looking at it. But none of it, I don't believe there was any blood on any of the machetes.
18EE, tell us what we're seeing in this photograph.
So that is a closer up view of the duct tape roll and the
It is a whodunit.
knife.
Would you agree that, well, you had an opportunity to review the DNA lab reports 2 and 3 that were also submitted as part of this case, correct?
Correct.
This one would be illegal in Denmark, even though it's not too long, but because it's one-hand operated, the blade. That's illegal in Denmark.
And to be clear, this duct tape roll that was listed in those reports, excuse me, the duct tape roll that's listed in those reports, is that the roll of duct tape that was taken out of that vehicle?
Yes.
In the DNA reports, it mentions that there was blood found on that roll of duct tape. Looking at 18DDD, are you able to give us a general idea of where the blood on the roll of duct tape was?
Yes, you won't be able to see it in this photo, but it was on the inside cardboard here.
Going back to 18EE, we have a can of soda, that roll of duct tape, and a folding knife of some sort. Is this the folding knife that you referenced in your reports as a pocket knife or something to that effect?
Yes.
Yeah, but that's spring-loaded switchblade. This one is just I don't have a where you can swing the blade up. It's not spring-loaded.
And on this pocket knife,
because they used them in West Side Story, that's why they got banned.
was there something that drew your attention
It
to
leads
it?
to
Yes, you can see some staining on the edge of a blade there, and then when we opened it up, we saw more red stains and other fluids.
Can you use your laser pointer and show us where you're seeing the red stains?
along the edge here, and I think there might have been some on the outside too.
And that was found under the radio in the center console area.
Correct.
18 FFF, what are we seeing in this photograph?
That is the black wallet found under the radio in the compartment.
And next to that wallet, there's a receipt from Wendy's, is that correct?
Yes.
And what was the date on that receipt?
That was dated 2/16/2024.
So to be clear, the second receipt from Walmart that showed one machete and the Wendy's receipts were not crumpled up in that mint green bag in the trunk.
No.
Were you able to identify who the wallet belongs to?
Yes, there is an ID inside of it.
And who did the ID belong to?
McKinley Louisma.
And is that what we see in State's Exhibit 18 HHH?
Yes.
Were there other forms of identification as far as bank cards and such in that wallet?
Yes.
And were those also in the name of or under the name of McKinley Louisma?
Yes.
And in relation to that duct tape and that knife with Melody's blood on it, where was this wallet situated in the vehicle?
That was also in the compartment under the radio.
No, there's a whole lot of. I think it could be there. I don't. And again, I try to be fair and open in every case, even though the bad cases. And I really want the state to prove their case. And when you're saying it might be there, I think it's there, you're not sure, and you should be sure.
18I, is this just another temporary driver's license in the defendant's name?
Yes.
I don't think the state have proven it so far. I think they're proven he's an accomplice, but I don't think they have proven he did any of the stabulation, asphyxiation so far. But again, even the kidnapping part could land him in prison for life.
JJJ, what are we seeing here?
This is the pocket knife with the stains.
And those stains would be along the bottom, per this picture, the bottom side of that knife.
Yes.
18 KKK, what are we seeing in this photograph?
So we flip the knife over to view the other side before opening it.
Would you agree that from this vantage point, there appears to be some sort of a clearer liquid on this side of the blood?
Yes.
And did you form any opinions as to what that substance may have been?
Can't know for sure. It could have been some sort of biological fluid, but I can't say for sure.
But it was in that condition when you located it in the defendant's vehicle.
Yes.
Tell us what's happening in 18 LLL.
So now we've opened the knife up so you can see the blade more clearly.
And in MMM.
That's the other side of the blade.
What are we seeing in 18 NNN?
So we wanted to get a photo of the length of the knife blade with a scale, and that's what you're seeing here.
In this photo in this photo we see an addition of a ruler and a zip tie. Where is this knife situated for the taking of this photograph?
So the knife has already been secured in a evidence box, and we put the scale in there with it.
Who does that? Puts it in the box and secures it?
We do at the scene, my partner and I.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Actually, no. Only the two of them are being tried for murder. The last one is just being tried as an accomplice, and his DNA was on the glove. So I'm thinking, like we talked about Friday, it's one of those overcharging everyone again because the jury is sure that we didn't put anyone there if they didn't do it. I think it's an overcharge so far. Maybe there will be some text messages or something where he'll testify to it, but I have him for kidnapping now, but that's withholding her without her consent or whatever you will call it. That's so far I can go now. Hey, Louise Cox.
Ms. Gomez, I want to show you what's been marked as State's Exhibit PPP. Do you recognize this box?
Yes.
And can you tell us what you recognize the box to be?
So this is a box that we've labeled pocket knife with red stains from compartment under radio in Honda. Date we collected it, initials of us, and you can see our original seal here. That is now broken. But
Yeah.
And when you say that we collected it and the date we collected it, how do you know who was the person who collected it?
Because
so my partner, Abigail Jones, and I both have our initials on the box.
The yellow tag that's seen in the top right-hand corner of that box, can you tell us what that depicts?
So once it's submitted to the laboratory, it's the yellow barcode for chain of custody purposes and tracking purposes.
And what is the lab number associated with this item of evidence?
This is lab item number 8.
So if lab item number 8 is referenced in the reports, whether the one authored by you or the 2 authored by Ms. Schneider, would lab number 8 associate with the items in this box?
Yes.
Your Honor, the state offers 18 PPP.
Any objection?
No objection, Your Honor.
Exhibit 18 PPT is admitted.
And Ms. Gomez, has that evidence tape been broken yet, the seal on it?
I believe it's been taped over.
Will you use the scissors next to you and break the seal for me, please? May I have permission?
Defense just said he was there, but he didn't do it. But the state was more, it was a heinous crime. And I don't think they said he don't do nothing specifically. They were talking about that night and the victim, and I don't think, did they single him out for anything, or was it just like that night this poor girl had this and that happening to her?
To publish this to the jury?
I think so.
And may I do that using the Elmo, Your Honor?
You may.
Just gonna
Are in the box with the knife. Would you agree with that? Oh.
Those are swabs taken by the DNA section, the DNA analyst.
So once you submitted the knife, the analyst or criminalist that would have done the DNA testing would have left the swab she used within this box.
Yes.
And those are attached or affixed to the top lid of the box.
Yes.
And then this knife that we see, this is the knife that you took or found collected from the center console
Is
of the
that
radio
no
in the
knife?
defendant's vehicle.
Yes.
Thank you.
If you commit a felony and someone dies, it's murder. In case like this, it makes sense. In other cases, it can get ridiculous. Yes, but again,
May I continue to republish?
I have this basic notion when I watch cases. If you charge with A, you have to prove A. We see way too many cases where they say, well, we're going for A and we're going to talk a lot about how this could be A. And then we'll, in the closing, say, but you can just give us C or D. That's fine. That should be out, no lesser included. Or if you overcharge, again, in the Karen Reed case, Cara Rentala case, where you stack so many options in there just to get a conviction. It shouldn't be allowed. If you want to prosecute this man, you must prove everything that you claim, or it's off the hook. You shouldn't be getting a murder, manslaughter if you can't prove murder. You chose to accuse him of murder. You better prove it. That should be the standard we give the prosecutors. Sadly, you can just filter down the way and, oh yeah, that's fine. The guy got involuntary manslaughter, but he was charged with first degree. Yeah, it's the same. No, it's not. I really think that it's a big problem. We see this overcharging in way too many cases. Hey, Dan. Hello.
Some photos, Your Honor.
Publishing now.
I'm showing you 18 GG.
GG.
Can you show us, using your laser pointer, where in the vehicle these items were located?
They were all located approximately in this area.
In front of the gear shift?
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Gomat, would it be fair to say that as part of the crime scene team, that your role was finding, collecting evidence?
Yes.
Did you have anything to do with any tests that were ran on the evidence that you found?
No, we do not do any of the testing that any items submitted to the laboratory.
So once you photograph, find the evidence, collect it, what do you do with it?
We will package it in evidence packaging, and at the scene, we'll decide what's going to come back with the crime scene team to the laboratory and what is going to stay with either our agent or the local agency, and then we will take those items back to the laboratory and submit them.
May I have the lights back, please? And if I understood your testimony correctly, the items that you and or your partner specifically submitted to the lab were seen on your report marked 1 through 10, is that correct?
Yes, I believe so.
May I publish 18A again, Your Honor? And the lights can stay on for this.
In that case, you really need
18A is published.
a good
So
evaluation
the items
of their
shown
mental
under the crime scene
capacities.
report section
Hey, Julie.
of your report.
Yes.
The items that you and your teammate opted not to send directly to the lab, can you explain to us what happens to those items?
So they are stored at the, I think in this case it was stored at Marion Police Department in their evidence room. And they keep those secure until the time that they either decide to submit more items or not, but they'll stay in the evidence room forever.
Is that a typical procedure that not everything collected in a case is submitted at one time?
Yes, especially from a crime scene, because you don't know what's going to be relevant. So you usually collect more than you end up submitting, just so that in the future, if that becomes a relevant item, then it can be submitted.
Prior to coming into court today, did you have an opportunity to review what were labeled under the same case number as your report, reports number 2 and reports number 3 that were authored by Carly Schneider?
Yes.
And if I'm going to show you those as well, what were previously marked as exhibits 19.
Just do the good old way to figure out if they are witches. Chuck them in the
I lost
river,
this,
and
Judge.
if they drown, they're innocent.
They're already admitted.
Yeah,
From where you're seated,
This is
Yeah.
19A. just
yes,
for
it is, Your Honor.
you're going 1686 with her.
Permission to proceed. Where you're seated, are you able to see 19A?
Yes.
And I just want to go through some of the items that are listed to confirm whether or not they were items that were submitted that were found within the defendant's vehicle.
Okay.
Looking at the first group of lab numbers, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, were those items that you submitted to the lab?
Yes.
Were there from this second group any items that you submitted?
No.
Then moving on to the third group of items that were submitted March 7th of 2024, are there items in that group that were located within the vehicle that were submitted for analysis?
Yes, there's 3 items that were submitted later, lab numbers 24, 25, and 26.
And just to remind us, lab number 24 is what?
The pink Hey Dude shoes.
And those pink Hey Dude shoes, were they located within that mint green bag found in the defendant's trunk?
Yes.
What else was, you said 25?
Yes.
And remind us what lab 25 was?
Those are black capri pants also found in the mint green.
Don't you live close to the ocean? Just sail her out to international waters and say, if you make it back, honey, I know you didn't do it. Yes, if they're allowed to. But again, even the kidnapping is a class 1 felony, so that's life. So it's just. But I'm thinking this is the first one to get to Van Patten, another accomplice. They haven't charged yet, so they want this guy to sing.
Bag of the Honda trunk.
And lab item 26.
The multicolor cell phone case found in the mint green bag in the Honda trunk.
Moving to the first page of report 3 within the same exhibit. Are there items listed in the itemized list of items that were submitted to the lab from the investigating agency that you collected from within the vehicle?
Yes.
And can you tell us which ones those were?
Lab item number 31
And what's lab item 31?
is the white watch band with red stains.
And where in the vehicle did you find that?
That was also in the mint green bag in the trunk.
Any others?
Yes. Lab item number 33, the machete in the black sheath found between the front driver's seat and the center console.
And any other items?
Yes. Item number 35, the black gloves with stains found in the mint green bag in the Honda trunk.
And were those Ozark Trail gloves? Or were
No.
those, go ahead, or were those other gloves
Yes, just a black pair of gloves.
that also had stains
Yes, we just noted stains because it was hard to tell if it was a colored stain or not.
because the gloves were black?
Yes.
Anything else?
The last item was number 38, the used roll of duct tape found in the compartment under the radio in the front seat of the car.
Thank you. And just to clarify, regarding the machete that was in the black sheath found between the center console and the driver's side or driver's seat, you identified that as lab 33?
Yes.
Okay. Earlier, when you were testifying, I was asking you some questions about locating blood within the passenger's compartment. And if I understood you correctly, you noted that that there was some blood, but it was near the center console.
If I recall correctly, yes.
Was that blood on items or was it on the console itself?
I think most of it was on the items. I don't recall specifically if there was anything on the console.
And according to your report, other than those items that were in the center console area, there was no other blood located in the car, in the passenger's compartment of the car.
Not to my knowledge, no.
The reports 2 and 3 were the DNA reports, correct?
Yes.
And they demonstrated the DNA analysis for the items listed, including the items that you recovered from.
Yes, I know sometimes the defense will try and get lesser, but that's because, again, we don't have this automatic out saying, you better prove murder one, or this guy will walk. Because, again, a hung jury will also benefit the state. They can try one more time. So I could see if the defense knows, well, he's kind of maybe a little bit guilty, that you say, murder two. Let's get murder two on the table. But I think the defense should be allowed to offer lesser includeds. But the state has the ultimate burden in the justice system because they are the state. They have all the money, all the power, all the people. If they say murder one, they prove murder one. Then the defense can offer up second degree or involuntary manslaughter or manslaughter, whatever they will. But the state gets one bite at the apple. That's my belief that of course there's some cases where you can subsidize one with the other, like did people if they are found with a lot of stolen goods, did they steal it or are they just fencing it for someone? If you can't prove they stole it, yes, I can live with saying, okay, they're fencing the stuff off. But in a murder case, in a capital case, you get one bite at the apple, in my opinion, because, again, this is probably public defenders. They have no money, no power compared to the state. So I would believe the state should be held to a standard almost impossible to reach because they have everything in the book. They can do all the DNA testing they want. They can do all the surveillance they want. They can go into everything where the defenders are tied on hands and knees, hands and legs. I don't know, wherever you tie them. I don't understand how you can have problem with the speed. It's so slow.
The defendant's vehicle.
Yes.
I don't have any additional questions, Your Honor.
Cross.
Just thank you briefly, Your Honor. Your Honor, could you publish Exhibit 18NN?
Slaughter, can you help me out there?
I sure can, Judge. 2 N's, correct?
Correct.
I'm sadly not a natural born, or else I could come run for president and make all the changes
Thank you.
All right, 18NN is published.
and become a millionaire.
So,
Oh,
Matt,
millionaire.
based on your markings on the sheet, these appear to be the items collected from the console of the vehicle which was searched, correct?
Yes.
And I believe you indicated that none of these items were collected. Is that correct? Just photographed?
To my knowledge, yes.
Okay. And more specifically to the point, whether anything was collected from here or not, there's no
Jamie thought it looked like he was very guilty in the beginning, and then they didn't really have anything. And so, again, I think, wasn't it one of your founding fathers or something that said better to let 100 guilty men walk than one innocent go to prison?
contraband in this photo. Is that correct?
Not to my knowledge, no.
And could we also publish Exhibit 18DDD, 18DDD?
Hate speech.
18DDD is published.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Gomez, I'm essentially going to ask you the same question of this photo. Whether or not these items were collected, there's no contraband in this photo, is that correct?
Objection, Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
There's no contraband. Did they ever state there was contraband in that photo? That was a weird question.
My understanding is that the council's going to ask a clarifying question.
Yes.
Withdraw the previous question. Go ahead.
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Gomez, my question is there any drug paraphernalia in this photo?
Not to my knowledge, I don't recall what the blue liquid was at this time, but otherwise, no.
We just zoom the photo a bit. If there had been any illegal drugs or drug paraphernalia in the car, those would have been seized, correct?
Looks like it says Juventus, but then body something. I don't know what it is. This looks like a vape. I don't know what that is. Just become a House representative before Pelosi drowns her wine cellar and profit off the stock tips. Well, I don't know. I'm just gonna get the Brendan. We're gonna set me up in a secure spot, and you're from Jersey. You can teach me all about being a corrupt politician. I believe I saw that Boardwalk Empire. Isn't that Jersey? So we're gonna fix it. Yes, he is because he was there and didn't stop it, and he was driving the car and he helped them get the weapon. So he is an accessory. But I'm just saying, charge people with what they are guilty of, not just what you want to find them guilty of. Hey, Tom. Yeah, of course you can.
If they were on the warrant, yes.
Based on your recollection, there was nothing like that in this search?
That's the wrong one. That's the
No, I don't think so.
Okay. I don't have any further questions, Your Honor.
Redirect.
Ms. Gomez, just to be clear, on the top of this blue liquid, it says something about being for a body, right?
I took your
Oh.
photo down. Do you want to back up?
Sorry, Judge, yes, please.
Yes, it appears to say that, yeah.
Probably some sort of body oil or body spray.
Yes.
Okay, no one has drawn your attention to this as anything drug-related?
No.
Okay, nothing further, Your Honor.
Any additional cross?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you very much.
I do too, I just.
Again,
State can call next witness.
it was his car. The stuff was in it. Yeah, perfume of some kind. Or body oil.
So I'm going to have you pause there and raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes. And I'm going to have you start by just stating and spelling your full name for the record.
Yes, yes. Don't get me wrong, Hannity. I'm saying the kidnapping alone would be a felony that would send him away from a long time. But don't charge him if you can't prove it. The kidnapping, I'm on board with because I think he lured her to the car. And he had the duct tape with her hair on it. He must have known they were doing stuff to her. But I just can't see him being the one who killed her. I think that's the Van Patten guy.
Dustin Prince, DUSTINPRINTZ.
All right, thank you, sir. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. Morning, Mr. Prince.
Morning.
Can you first tell us a little bit about yourself? How old are you?
I'm 27.
What do you do for a living?
I work for a burial service, Roland Wilbur Burial Vault.
What's the name of that company?
Wilbur Burial Vaults.
And do you live here in Cedar Rapids?
Yes.
What's your address?
270 15th Street.
Is that on the northwest side of town?
Yes.
He's
Are you
the
familiar with a
defendant.
person by the name of Dakota Van Patten?
Yes.
How?
He's my little brother.
Did you say younger brother?
Yes.
Did Mr. Van Patten live with you at the 270 15th Street Northwest residence in Cedar Rapids on or about February 17th and 18th of 2024?
Yes.
Approximately how long had he been living with you at that time?
About 6 months.
Where did he stay in the residence or use as his kind of primary bedroom?
There's a bedroom in the basement.
And for the 6 months or so while he was there, was that where he slept and kept his personal items and whatnot?
Yes.
I want to take you to the day of February 17th of 2024, it was a Saturday, and ask you just a few questions about some contact you may have had with Mr. Van Patten, your brother, on that day. Did you see your brother that day?
No, I spoke to him on the phone, like early evening, probably about 5 or 6 o'clock or so.
Do you remember when you spoke to him on the phone where he was?
He was.
Objection calls for hearsay.
Yeah.
Overruled.
What?
Do you remember where he was?
He was supposed to be at a birthday party at Pizza Ranch, and judging by the background sound, it sounded like a child's birthday, like kids screaming arcade games from the arcade they have in the back of Pizza Ranch.
Is there a pizza ranch on the west side of town, Cedar Rapids?
Yeah, over there by the Quick Star on Williams, I believe, over there by the library.
Okay. Is that also in the southwest side?
Take this and point it towards this. Then we can hear you.
Near like Menards and Walmart and those places?
Yeah, that area over there.
Do you know a person by the name of Shantae McMurray?
No, I don't believe so.
So you don't know whether he was with her or not?
No.
So when you talked to Mr. Van Patten, your brother, at about 5 p.m., and it sounded like he was at this birthday party, did you speak to him after that on the 17th?
I don't think so.
So he wasn't at your residence at 270 15th Street Northwest, obviously, because you're talking on the phone at that time, right?
On the Saturday, you mean?
Yeah.
No,
Do you recall seeing him at all that Saturday around your house?
I don't remember. I don't think so.
When is the next time you recall approximately seeing Mr. Van Patten?
It'd be Sunday, like late morning, early afternoon, probably about noon. Something like 11 a.m. and 1 in the afternoon, somewhere there.
Where did you see him?
At my house. That's when I woke up from. I'd worked the night before, so when I woke up, he was there, and yeah.
Do you know, as you sit here today, when he arrived home?
I don't know exactly what time he arrived. I just know he was there when I woke up. Sometime between 11 and 1 o'clock.
Mr. Prince, I'd like to present to you what's been previously introduced and accepted into evidence as State's Exhibits number 13U and 13B, when the court allows us to publish that. So just hang tight for now.
13U is published now.
Mr. Prince, do you recognize the objects and the item in State's Exhibit number 13U?
Yeah, that appears to be my lockbox.
And is this a lockbox that you kept at your residence at 270 15th Street Northwest?
Yes.
And where did you keep this lockbox?
In my bedroom, at the foot of the bed.
In your bedroom at the foot of the bed?
Yeah.
How did you keep this lockbox locked and secured?
There was a padlock on it, and the only keys for the padlock were on my key ring that was with me wherever I went.
Hey, Luna.
So the key to this lockbox opened a padlock that opened the lockbox?
Yes.
And that's something you kept on keys, like other keys that you had?
Yeah, just my normal set of keys, key for both my cars, my house, for work. There was 2 keys for the padlock, but they were on the same ring on the set of keys. When you buy a padlock, they'll give you a key set have 2 keys on the.
And you had both keys?
Yeah, both keys were on the ring, same ring, on the key ring the whole time.
Is there any other way to open that padlock than those 2 keys?
No, there's no other way to open that padlock.
Did you have those keys with you or have knowledge of where those keys were throughout the day on February 17th?
Yes, I worked both of my jobs, so from 7 a.m. until about 2 p.m. and then my other job from 7 p.m. until about 5 a.m. They were with me through both jobs.
And throughout the day, you had those keys with you that had the only means to access this lockbox?
Yes, those keys were on my person the entire day.
Does your brother, Mr. Van Patten, have access to this lockbox?
Gina, who? What? I don't. What?
Or did he on February 17th of 2024 through any means?
No.
To your knowledge, was this lockbox then kept in its regular location as of February 17th, 2024 on that day?
Yes, the box had not moved. It was in the same spot.
And to your knowledge, had that box moved in any of the days previous to that?
No.
Any reason to believe as of February 17th, 2024 that anybody had manipulated or accessed this lockbox?
No.
And to your knowledge, did this lockbox remain in its regular location at the foot of your bed up until the time it was seized and searched on February 20th, 2024?
Yeah, it was in the same spot, unmoved until the police removed it.
And how did the lockbox get open for the police?
I believe they'd already cut it open by the time I'd gotten there, but the lock was still locked, and they used my keys when I'd gotten home to open it.
So you even had to get the police into the lockbox?
Yeah, I had to give the police the key to open the lock. I don't remember if they'd cut in through the box itself was just plastic, but it had not been broken before that.
So as we see this right here, when the police took this photograph, was that because you provided the means in which they could open the lockbox and examine the contents?
Yeah, like I said, I provided them means to open the lock. I don't know if they opened the, I mean, it wouldn't have been hard to cut through a plastic box. The lock was what was holding it. But before they arrived, box wasn't broken in any means. I don't know if I'm misunderstanding the question. Or...
No, you're good.
Okay.
No, the lockbox had not been manipulated and opened in any way.
Yeah.
Okay. Move on to, well, actually, before we move on, at the top of this picture in the lockbox, we see a firearm. What kind of firearm is that?
9mm pistol.
Is that your firearm then?
Yes.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to 13V now. In 13V, we see some items on there. Is this the firearm then after it was taken out of the lockbox and photographed?
I'm sure, and your wife will be happier with just a dog around, not you complaining all the time. So I'm sure Jamie can fix that.
Yeah, that looks like the same firearm.
And then is there a magazine then that would be associated with or would be used to load that firearm?
Yes.
Any other firearm-related items in here?
You mean like in the picture?
Yeah.
Looks like an extra magazine, a box of Remington ammunition. I'm not sure. Looks like there's a holster up there. Oh,
Are those all your items too?
yes.
Those were all in the lockbox as well?
Yes.
Were all the contents related to firearms that you had kept in your lockbox up to and including February 17th still in that lockbox as pictured here?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Were all the items that you had in your lockbox that were firearm related, the firearm itself, the 9mm, the ammunition, the magazines, were all of those items still in the lockbox when it was accessed by the police?
Yeah, as far as,
So nothing missing?
no.
I don't have any other questions at this time, Your Honor.
Cross-examination?
Good morning.
Morning.
Mr. Prince, before February 17th, had you ever seen my client, McKinley Louisma, in your house?
No, I'd never seen him inside the house.
I don't have anything else, thank you.
Redirect?
Well, you are already
A couple
booked
questions
to
about
go
that,
to
Mr.
Denmark,
Prince.
so
First of all, what hours do you work at your?
this is the part I don't understand. We've seen this every single day. When the defense doesn't answer, Jemima, isn't you ask the questions, then it's the defense turn. And then when it comes back to you, you can ask within the scope of what the defense asks you. This constantly is, I forgot to ask 20 questions when I was asking you on direct before. It's constantly they are trying to do this on redirect. I thought it was just within the scope, but it seems like they are suspecting the defense is asking some questions, and when they don't do it, they have to ask questions because they forget. It seems weird.
My day job for the burial service, I work Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. till about 2 or 3, depending on the day. And then my second job, I work security overnight, and that's depending on the week, always Friday, Saturday night, and then a couple other nights throughout the week, so 3 to 4 nights a week. And that hours kind of vary back and forth an hour or so, but typically about 8 p.m. until about 3 or 4 a.m.
So with those type of hours, then would there be occasions when you wouldn't be at home and perhaps Mr. Van Patten would have a guest?
Yeah, I could say there's a lot of time that I was not at home.
Can you say definitively that Mr. Louisma was not at your residence during those times?
No, I have no way of knowing for sure that he was not in my house.
Yeah, and it's a weird one. No, I know everything's legal until there's an objection.
Very much, sir.
But it's just, yeah. We had that one that they released and had to call back because they forgot. To me, it just seemed unprofessional. But they were asking about his working hours. And didn't really talk about why they wanted that. The state should not be allowed such power. This leaves room for corruption. The laws need to be changed, in your opinion. Well, I have a when I become emperor of the Americans, I will do sweeping justice reforms because there's a lot of stuff that needs to be cleared up in America.
The state can call its next witness.
May we approach now?
You may.
Bum, ba-dum, bum, bum. We are going on our first break of the day. It was a good break. It was an hour and 10-minute long break. That's the good thing about this case. It goes fast because they are constantly taking breaks.
All right, we're back at the record in FECR 153477. Thank you for your patience, jurors. As I said before, anytime you're waiting, we're working. So that was just a longer break than we anticipated. But I think we're now at a point where the state is ready to call its next witness. The state can do so at this time.
Yes, Your Honor. The state calls.
No, he was working at a bail bondsman. Yeah, he never seen Louisma. Again, it's Van Patten. We're hearing about Van Patten constantly. No one talks about Louisma, and this is Louisma who is the defendant. Weird. I'm just saying. Yet, we don't have an emperor in the US yet, Tim Swoop. Can you gerrymander my town? Well, there will only be one election. That's to install me as emperor, and then me and my socialist dictatorship will take the burden of democracy away from you and let you live a happy life that I deem is good for you.
Swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, some of them is really, this is really bad.
It's Marissa Louisman, MarissAMussMann.
Thank you. Go ahead, counsel.
Good morning, Marissa.
Good morning.
I want you to start by telling us a little bit about
Marissa.
yourself. First of all, what's your current occupation?
I am a special agent with the Iowa Department of Public Safety, Division of Criminal Investigations, and I am assigned to the Major Crime Unit.
How long have you held that position with the DCI?
With DCI, it's been 1 year. I've been with the Department of Public Safety since 2022.
Oh, she speaks.
Prior to DCI, I was with the Iowa State Patrol for them.
What did you do with the Department of Public Safety starting in 2022 then before you became a special agent?
I attended the Certified Academy in spring of 2022, and then I was assigned as a trooper to Post 12, which is the Davenport area, and I worked as a trooper at patrol.
How long did you work as a trooper for patrol?
Approximately 1.5 years.
And prior to joining the Iowa State Patrol, the Department of Public Safety and the Iowa State Patrol, did you have any previous law enforcement experience?
Yes, I've been in law enforcement for a total of 15 years. I started my career in 2009 with the Clinton Police Department. I was there for approximately 8 years. My first three and a half was on patrol. The remainder of that time was as a detective. I served as an investigator for them, so handled cases as well as the property and evidence room manager and the technical services person. So technical services is like oversees crime scenes, crime scene processing. And I was also a member of the crime scene unit for 7 years after my probationary period of 1 year on at the Clinton Police Department. In 2017, I switched to the Clinton County Sheriff's Office, where I initially served 6 months in the jail, and then I served 6 months in the jail working. And then I was assigned as a detective there, where I also did their crime scenes and property room management. And I was a member of the Iowa Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force during my time at the Sheriff's Office.
Okay, great. Before you came into law enforcement, what was your background as far as education?
I have my bachelor's degree from University of Wisconsin-Platteville. With my bachelor's is in criminal justice with an emphasis in forensic investigation and a Spanish minor. And then I am in currently my last class of my master's degree for organizational leadership with criminal justice leadership.
Great. So were you working in your capacity as a special agent, the one you are now, position on or about February 17th and 18th of 2024?
Yes, I was.
Did you have an opportunity to become involved in the investigation of the homicide of Melody Hoffmanin?
Yes, I did. I became involved on February 21st.
Can you tell us how it is that you became involved in the investigation?
Yes, I was returning from some personal time off at work. I was aware that they had that this incident had occurred and that Special Agent Ryan Kedley was the lead investigator on the case. Knowing that homicide cases are very cumbersome and take a lot of personnel and resources, I reached out to him to see if he needed assistance. And then he asked that I respond to Marion Police Department to assist.
Is this area within your regular zone that you would investigate cases in?
Yes, it is. It's considered Zone 4 within the Division of Criminal Investigations Major Crime Unit.
So have you and Special Agent Kelly worked on some investigations together in the past?
Yeah, actually, I've worked with him since I was at the Clinton Police Department. So I worked in conjunction with cases prior to becoming an agent as well. And actually, I believe in all of my roles with the police department, with the sheriff's office, and now with the state.
Great. Tell us what you did first then when Special Agent Kelly said, sure, come on board, we could use some help.
I responded to the Marion Police Department, where I met with Special Agent Kedley, Detective Tom Peterson, and other officers that were working the case. I received a briefing about some of the case facts and leads that they needed followed up on. The 21st, originally, I was assigned to assist with some phone follow-ups, so interviews of subjects by phone. Assisted in going to the search warrant that was conducted at the residence of Dakota Van Patten. And also from that
Van
day
Patten
forward,
again.
I assisted with the identification, preservation, and writing search warrants for all digital aspects of the case. So that would be any applications or apps, as I'll probably refer to them, phone numbers, internet service providers, that kind of thing.
So when you arrived, you kind of jumped into it, and one of the things you said you did was that you responded to the scene of the search warrant?
Correct.
Okay, do you remember where that was?
I don't remember the address off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Is that the residence that was known to be that of Dakota Van Patten?
Correct, yes.
And as a result of that investigation, do you recall when some glasses were recovered there?
Yes, I do.
We've had some testimony about those glasses already, but when you were there when those glasses were recovered, what did you do as far as
No, I don't. I've heard the name Madeline Soto. I couldn't put it. I know a lot of people are really laser focused on cases, but normally I don't look. Well, if I'm following a case, I'll look at that. But normally I don't know what's coming down the pipeline. So I don't even know what the Madeline Soto case is about. So I don't know the judges' names. I don't know the prosecutors' names. I don't. Normally it's either Jamie, Marissa, or Jemima who yells at me Monday morning saying, "There's a case starting. Get moving," and then I'll learn about it. But I don't. I know the name Madeline Soto, but I don't know what it's about. I'll look it up. I like Mr. J.
trying to confirm the owner of those glasses?
The glasses were brought, I didn't enter the residence at all. The glasses were brought outside by members who were searching the residence and who had located the glasses. They were consistent with the glasses that I knew we were looking for and that were on the search warrant. I took a photograph of the glasses and forwarded it to Special Agent Ryan Kedley for identification.
Your Honor, at this time, can we publish what's been previously introduced and accepted into evidence as State Exhibit number 10G?
MG is
I don't
published.
care who
Special
Patrick
Agent
James's
Louisma,
wife
is this
is.
the glasses that you that were recovered at Mr. Van Patten's residence that you helped with to determine the identification of the owner of?
She the
Yes,
one
that
with
is
the
correct.
where the mom
You took?
Yes, it is.
made her sleep in the bed with the stepdad?
Special Agent Ryan Kedley,
What was the purpose of that?
to identify the glasses. They were similar
Yeah, I
and
think that's
consistent
the
with
one.
the ones that we were looking for in the search warrant, which had been identified as belonging to Melody Hoffmanin, but identified as missing from the scene of her death.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, take that down, next judge. Another one of the duties that you have told us that you did among the various things was to help obtain some information on social media, is that right?
Correct.
Would you say that that was one of the primary duties that you did in this case?
Yes.
So you're kind of in charge of social media somewhat.
Yes, in this case it was. I mean, our roles kind of vary from investigation to investigation, depending on what the investigation calls for. It is something that I have a little bit more training and specialty in, so that's something that I assist with.
What kind of training and specialty do you have in accessing, researching, identifying social media account information?
So as my role with the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, so we call it ICAC, ICAC, I received a lot of training on internet service providers and communications through applications and electronic communication. So there was a lot of coursework that I did for that, including investigation.
That's a horrible. Yeah, I know what. That's the one where the mom sent her to sleep with the stepdad. Oh, I hate those kind of cases. Sandy, hope you are great again soon. Enjoy the day on the couch and listening along. Mm-mm-mm. It's really, yeah. Again, I get all these names and don't have them connected to anything. I just have those little bits of pieces. I just remember the thing with her sleeping with the in the dad's room was weird, and the mom was defending the stepdad or something, trying to say he absolutely didn't do it, and he had CP on his computer or something. Yeah, I don't know if we're going to cover that. I have a hard time doing the young kids cases. I try to make it lighthearted, but some of them I just can't. I'll remember too much.
That went into those lines of communication and work to identify subjects and communicating digitally with children and committing crimes. In addition to that, I do have a certification from the National White Collar Crime Center as a certified cyber crime investigator.
You're still going
there's a lot
through your
of training
CV.
that goes along with that, and it goes with your experience.
As part of that experience, are you able to sort of swim through social media kind of information to try to find information that may be relevant to your investigation?
Yes, it teaches you what to look for, what becomes relevant, maybe what to ask for when you're seeking information from different companies. Every company uses a little bit different words.
You look at
As part of that
social
training,
media
experience in
platforms.
gathering
Come on.
and investigating social media information. Have you been able to take that information and put it into a format that makes it more readable to present in court?
Yes, most of the, I believe, exhibits that are going to be are actually from kind of in the native format that they received in. Other than maybe some items to focus on, but they're relatively in the native format that they received.
Okay. From what individuals did you seek to obtain information on social media accounts in this case, if you recall?
There were multiples. Ones that became a focus were Melody Hoffmanin and accounts related to her, Dakota Van Patten, Logan Kempton, Nikias.
But I don't want to do Alderson because everyone else is doing it, and it won't be going for a million years because her lawyers fired her or she's going pro se, and it's gonna take it won't be till 2025. We'll probably go with Lincoln Rayleigh as the next one.
Boda, and then the defendant, Mr. McKinley Louisma.
And talking about cases that's too much, this lady actually looked like the friend of Kayla Montgomery, who had the pew stolen in the first case against Adam Montgomery, the one who became a nurse, administration nurse, or whatever it was. She looks just like her. The one who really liked using $10 words but couldn't fit it into $5 sentences.
Before we get into the social media account information, I want to talk about another bit of digital information in this case that's already been introduced, and that's what's been described as a threatening text message that was sent from a text now number on or about January 7th, 2024. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I am.
Okay. And do you recall what the phone number was that was involved in that?
Yes, there's a lot of numbers that were involved in this case. I believe it was 319-732-6906.
Okay, 319-732-6906.
Correct.
And tell us a little bit about how text now works. Maybe we have some testimony on that, so just a brief description as a reminder.
We don't need to know how
It is
text works.
It is an application, or you can use it through the web as well, an internet-based application that users can get a phone number that they can use without having a cell service. So use it through internet or through Wi-Fi access. The way that works is the companies purchase a pool of phone numbers that they can use. Those numbers aren't permanently assigned to that person. Once they're done, and either the person puts the number back or it's expired, or however that the company determines to do that, it then is recycled to different people. So it's slightly different than a cell phone company where you're the registered user all the time.
In your capacity as the investigator in the social media accounts and whatnot, in this case, did you attempt to obtain information on who the owner was of the text now number that sent this threatening message on or about January 7th, 2024?
Yes, I did. I served a search warrant to text now.
And as a result of that search warrant that you served on text now, were you able to identify someone who owned that account and then as a result infer who sent it?
We were not.
Okay. Can you explain
So
for us, based
again,
on your experience dealing with?
They don't have any evidence. The text now with the threatening messages, they can't prove who did it. It's I hope they get something good.
social media and text now in particular, the reasons why those records may not be able to be recovered.
Sure. In this case specifically, we were at a disadvantage for time. That message was sent on January 7th of 2024. By the time I became involved in the case, we were talking February 21st.
Well, I just like 1 to 2 week cases, because when you're doing an Adelson, I don't know, you can sit here for 6 weeks just doing pre-trial motions, and it gets so boring. I like a quick turnover, because I'm constantly covering trials. I'm not just doing it 1 hour every night and do a recap. So especially like this, where it goes so slow, I just get bored. And now I'm blocked on Twitter, so I can't sit and tell people to sit on cacti. So I have nothing to do other than play with my. Yeah.
We have a month and a half or more that has passed and elapsed. That information is obtained and saved by.
Jamie is currently, well, I'm not allowed to say this, but I'm just saying Jamie is on assignment with a certain group that rhymes with Smelta Smix. She is in the Middle East. She is, as they call it, cleaning out some problems. You might read about it in the papers. It might be too top secret to you ever know anything about what she's doing there. But again, Jamie is taking care of America's problems. She is, if you ever saw Navy SEALs and you know God in that movie, that's Jamie.
Companies for different periods of time. A lot of times you can see it, or you may see it from the companies as their terms of service, or they'll send you some information about what we collect or what we keep. It's that kind of information. However, there are privacy policies within companies that they allow you to potentially delete or deactivate an account. For text now, if messages are deleted and the account is deactivated, those may no longer be available for us to see.
So
that case is so. We all know Kat did more than the way that everyone. Oh, she did absolutely nothing. I saw a part on it on Trial TV Live yesterday. I like wearing underwear. Yeah, sure you do, Kat. How do you like your long pork?
one of two possible reasons why you didn't get the information on who was the Text Now owner would be the sheer passage of time and the records weren't kept.
Yep. Yes, correct. So either the sheer passage of time, I'd say there's 3 reasons. Either the records were never there, the sheer passage of time that they don't maintain the records for, or the third one is the user's overt act to delete and deactivate that account.
So you could delete the messages and or the account. And if that happens, then you serve a search warrant and the response you're going to get is, we don't have anything.
Correct.
And is that what the response you got?
Yes, because the preservation for them to hold those records was not served until February.
So going to the social media accounts then, in this case that you reviewed.
Get to
we're gonna focus on defendant
evidence.
Louisma's social media accounts here and start with our first exhibit. If I can show the witness what's been previously marked in states.
Finally, some evidence.
Do you see state exhibit 20?
I do.
Jamie has never been affiliated with a uniformed military, despite relocating to Yugoslavia for much of the late 80s. Jamie has never been officially a part of any armed forces.
Yes, I have.
Can you give us a general description of what this exhibit is?
This is an excerpt from the Unified Messages section.
And just because she vacationed in Grenada just before, just around the time when Reagan was president, she was in the Balkans right when Bill Clinton was president. She was in Iraq in the early 2000s. It's coincidental. She has a bad travel agent. That's all we can say.
Of the Facebook profile or Facebook account records that belonged or were identified as belonging to the defendant, McKinley Louisma. His username was King Zoe. I'm going to call it King Zoe, but it's KXNGZOE. And these messages are between that profile and the profile belonging with a vanity name of Maddie Brown.
So what we're looking at in State's Exhibit 20E is messages between what you've identified as the defendant's Facebook account, the KXNGZOE.
That seems like she's on the spectrum somewhere, but it's the way opening statements are that she has absolutely nothing to do with it. Defense, no, she has nothing to do with it. Kind of makes me think she had something to do with it. And I'm not saying I've ever been near where long pork has been prepared but I know long pork has a very distinct smell from other types of pork. So if you've been in a house where he has a blower going in to try and burn all the long pork, you know long pork is being cooked in that house.
OE, and another individual that identifies herself as Maddie Brown.
That is correct.
How did you recover these messages?
These were obtained through the search warrant from Facebook. So Facebook sent these. It was in the account package that we received.
And would these be messages then sent through, we talk about the Facebook account, through the Messenger Facebook account?
Yes.
Why did you pinpoint these in your investigation?
So reading through the messages, the context within the messages appeared that the user that had the vanity name of Maddie Brown was relating information or communicating consistently with what Melody Hoffmanin may have said.
As you reviewed these messages, then did you make a determination that it appeared very likely that the Maddie Brown user was actually Melody Hoffmanin?
Yes, it also is very apparent in the messages that Mr. Louisma also believed that user was Melody.
And do these contain an expression of the state of mind of Melody Hoffmanin on the date of these messages, including specific references to her relationship with the defendant?
Yes, I would say.
I'm going to object. This calls for speculation and for legal conclusion.
Overruled.
Yes, the messages indicate a level of frustration.
And I don't think I even established this. I apologize. What date were these messages being sent on?
They were sent on January 7th, 2024.
Okay. We move to admit State's Exhibit 20E.
Any objection to 20E? 20E is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
20E is published.
Special Agent Moosman, now we're looking at
Let's
State's Exhibit number 20E
picking
here.
that so you can
And we
read
just
it.
want to make sure that we establish that there's a date of a sent message and the author, and that's pretty intuitive, but the time here, is that in Central Standard Time?
No, it is in Universal Time. So that would be, the math on that Central Standard Time is minus 6 hours. So it's that 5:36. So on 1/7 of 2024, 5:36 a.m. UTC, you subtract 6 hours. So that would actually be the day before. It's going to be January 6th, 2024 at approximately 11:36 p.m.
So when we look at these messages, we're just.
No, not approximately. It's 6 hours. It's not approximately 6 hours. Why can't they just explain it? You just subtract 6, because I said plus 6 because that's how we figure it out. But this is stupid. I hate they can't tell Americans what UTC is.
Gonna have to do the math every time, right?
Yeah, minus 6.
All right. So I think we can figure that out and as we go with this, but let's say the messages start here, as you've indicated, at 11:36 and 48 seconds on January 6th.
That's why I'm glad we started doing speed runs.
And the first message, who is that sent by?
That is the author, is that King Zoe Facebook page. That is Mr. Louisma.
And what is it that Mr. Louisma says at this time?
It says, Melody, if you texting me, you can stop BC, which I take as because clearly you don't have NTH, which I take as nothing better to do, I see.
And is this an indication here, as you testified earlier, that even though the other participant in this conversation is Maddie Brown, and Mr. Louisma as
Yes,
addressing Maddie
because it's
Brown's
Greenwich
felony,
mean time.
Correct.
so that he's
And Greenwich is just
cleared out
outside
his
of
felony.
London, I believe.
Correct.
So continuing on then, what does Mr. Louisma then say just about 30 seconds or so later?
I don't want to play whatever game you playing, again, BC, because I'm not interested.
And then in response to that, the Facebook account that is identified as Maddie Brown, but under the circumstances you've opined as Melody, what's the response there just a few seconds later?
What are you saying? I'm not Melanie.
And in that case, she actually says Melanie instead of Melody.
That is correct.
And then how does the defendant respond about 8 seconds later?
He responds, all of a sudden, I don't want to be with you.
And then what's his next response?
And now you saying I did this and did that. That's hella funny.
Is this an excerpt of the conversation?
This is.
Okay. And then after he says that's hella funny on just a few seconds later, about a minute and a half or so later, how does Maddie Brown, i.e. Melody Hoffmanin, respond?
You guys were cute together, but I get why now. And we're going to, I believe it's supposed to be throw away your stuff. You're not getting it back.
So within a minute or so after that, Melody is indicating something about throwing away Mr. Louisma's stuff.
Correct.
Okay. And how's Mr. Louisma respond there?
Okay.
And I think we have one more message, and that's just within that same time frame. What's the final message that Mr. Louisma sends?
Have fun throwing away my stuff.
Okay, I think we're done with that exhibit, Your Honor. I'd like to present to the witness now what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 20A.
Actually, a baker's dozen is also British because they had a weight limit on bread
Special
in
Agent
the
Louisman, were you able
50s, I believe
to
it
gain
was.
access to the
So they put extra
records
loaves
from
in
the
it.
Instagram account of Mr. Louisma?
Yes, I was. Oh, no, it's not the Instagram accounts of Mr. Louisma.
Okay. Were you able to gain access to the Instagram accounts of Melody Hoffmanin?
Yes, I was.
And
But what did we learn from that conversation? That they were breaking up and they were acting like teenagers. You're not getting your stuff back. I don't want to talk to you. Nothing saying, I want to unalive you.
from the Instagram account of Melody Hoffmanin, were you able to identify a conversation between Melody Hoffmanin and the defendant?
Yes, I was.
Okay. What did we see?
You always add, if you're on UTC, you add 5 hours for Eastern Standard Time, 6 hours for Central Time. But I don't know, do UTC follow daylight saving time? I'm not a clockologist.
In State's Exhibit number 20A.
It is a conversation thread between the two users, Melaroni, MELARONI _03, and user AM _ spades.
And were you able to identify the account owner or user AM _ spades?
Through visual, yes. By visually looking at the account, it was consistent with the same photograph that was used by Mr. Louisma's Facebook profile account, and also it has a vanity name of King Zoe, spelled KXNGZOE, which is very unique.
And when was this conversation?
February 17th of 2024.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of the conversation that you reviewed, obtained in this case?
Yes, it is. The same as the last one where it's that excerpt. This is how it's presented from Facebook or from Meta.
Move to enter State's number 20A, Your Honor.
The objection to 20A.
No objection.
20A is admitted.
I did misspeak there. It's not Facebook, Instagram. Meta is the parent company of both Instagram and Facebook. So all Meta records include both Instagram and Facebook.
That's something I actually knew.
Yes.
Okay. Go ahead and show that when we get a chance. Thank you, Your Honor. Okay, this is State's Exhibit 20A then here. So again, we have the UTC time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so via the math here with that first message, can you tell us when that first message was sent by Melody Hoffmanin?
So 22:58 minus 6 would be military time. 16:58, which is 4 p.m., 4:58 p.m. on February 17th, 2024.
In this conversation, is Melody sending messages to the defendant's Instagram account?
What? That was some This is 7:43, so that'll be one. No, yeah, that'll be 1 o'clock. 1:43. This is 10:58, so that would be 4:58. That was a whole lot of mathing of nothing.
Correct. You see who the author is there at the top. It says Melaroni_03, and then the sent is her sending it.
Let's look at the first message here that's sent. What's the first message Melody sent then at 4:58, 59 seconds p.m. on the 17th of February, 2024?
Bubby.
And then sometime after that, it's like we jump ahead a little bit. You want to do some more math for us?
Sure. It's going to be the 17th still at 8:44 p.m. It's easy when I can look at the clock across the way there.
Okay. So then in the evening hours, sure it's 8 or is it 7?
Might be 7.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, 7:44.
7, yes.
Okay, 7:44 and 33 seconds.
Yep. Yeah, this becomes complex math for Americans because you'll have to subtract 12 and then you'll have to subtract 6 because you don't use military time. But real people will know that 22:58 is just 10:58 in the evening.
PM, what did she send to him?
Ken,
And then just about 6 seconds later, what's the next message?
why are you ignoring me?
And then moving down here, about 8 minutes after that, what message does he send to him?
Hello. And then, bruh, answer your phone.
Okay, yeah, I skipped over that hello. So it was hello just a few seconds later, and then about 8
Hello, is it me you're looking for?
minutes later, bruh, answer your phone.
Yes, sorry.
Some kind of emoji. All right, so up to this point, does this appear that Melody Hoffman, through her Instagram account, is reaching out, trying to make contact with the defendant?
Yes, it appears so.
And did you see any response from the defendant up to that point in time?
Not at that point, no.
Okay. Now we have a different message in there that appears to be sent from Melody's Instagram account. Do you see that?
Correct.
Okay, and what is the date of this sent message then?
It is February 18th, 2024 at 3:29 a.m.
Okay, so now we're in the 18th and the 3 o'clock hour, is that right?
Correct.
And what does that message say?
Hey, this is Megan. Is Mel with you?
And does that indicate to you that someone else is sending a message from Melody's Instagram account, and that someone else appears to be her mother?
That's how it's being identified, yes.
Did Mr. Louisma respond to Melody's Instagram account and or to Megan in this format?
Yes, it says, hey, with a wave emoji. Your mom is trying to get a hold of you.
And what time is that sent?
That was sent at 3:58 a.m. on February 18th, 2024.
So just short of 20 minutes after that message from Megan.
Correct.
And then is there another message that was sent by the defendant's Instagram account to Melody Hoffman's Instagram account?
Yes, approximately a minute and a half later, Mr. Louisma's account sends, is you okay?
And then the final message in this exhibit sent just about 21 seconds after that last message from Mr. Louisma. What does that say?
Your mom is texting me to get a hold of you, so you should talk to your mom.
Now, is that the extent of the messages that you that were compiled into this exhibit from Instagram?
Yes, I believe so.
Thank you, Your Honor. Now I'd like to present to the witness what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 20B1.
So Mr. Louisma was texting her, your mom wants to get in contact with
Yes, I
you.
do.
As part of your review
I
of
get that
Facebook
right?
account records of the defendant in this case, did you access some activity from his
No, her mom didn't read these messages. That was text messages.
Facebook account?
Yes, Facebook breaks it up through different ways, and one of those ways is the activity log of searches.
So that activity log includes what kind of searches?
Searches in the search bar, whether they're searching for a profile or a phrase or however.
And so one of the things that is included in search is a profile of another user in Facebook.
Correct.
Or maybe a user, but maybe a Facebook account. It's not a person, but like a agency or whatever.
Correct. And you can search information that'll go through posts as well. So I mean, it's the search within Facebook. So it's Facebook's search of profiles or the information contained within.
Okay. Does that information, in the information in State's Exhibit number 20B1 also include activity that involves visiting a profile too?
Yes, within that search activity log, it shows that they searched it, and then it'll say whether it was visited or not.
So does this exhibit show that profiles were searched and at times also visited, meaning what the user taps on the profile and then goes to the page?
Yes.
And in your experience, when somebody were to search a profile and go to the page, what does that allow them to see?
Any information that they posted, it would be an easy access to message them from there, anything that would relate to their profile.
Would it allow them to potentially see recent posts that would be, well, public if you're not a friend, but if you are a friend, you can see everything, right?
Yes, it depends on the user's privacy settings, but yes, you'd be able to see potentially photos, any information that they share with that user, including friends, activities, all that stuff.
And how far back does the this activity on State's Exhibit number 20B1 go?
It begins on December 1st of 2023. Actually, with UTC, time conversion is November 30th.
From the last day of November, then how far does it go as far as the end of the entries?
I believe I searched the search warrant through February 27th is what it looked for.
And why is this date important in this case as a general sort of time frame?
November, is that the November 30th date? During the time frame where it had been identified that Melody and Mr. Louisma had been involved in a relationship.
Does it also cover the time period where the relationship ended and Mr. Louisma was also involved with Nakia Sloboda, but also with Ms. Hoffman?
Yes, you can see it go back and forth through the searches.
Is this a fair and accurate copy of that information that we discussed?
Yes, it is.
Move to admit State's Exhibit number 20B1.
Any objection to 20B1?
No objection.
Exhibit 20B1 is admitted.
Permission to publish, thank you, Your Honor.
20B1 is published.
Okay, so now we're looking at this exhibit we've been talking about here, and let's just kind of talk about what the entries themselves show. I don't think we'll go through all 30 pages, every entry, but just to get an idea, so when it's reviewed at a later date, the folks in the jury know what they're looking at. So the first indication here in the activity log has kind of legend. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, at the top, it explains what you're looking for. So it goes in order on how you're going to see each essentially activity search or stamped, the time, type, summary, and object ID. So that's the information that Facebook or Meta provides regarding what that information contains.
I think there's a laser pointer up there, maybe, if you want to go ahead and use that. You just kind of circle the area you were talking about there so we know.
So this is like your key. This is your key that explains what the time means, what the type means, summary, object ID.
So for example, just looking at the first entry here, we're going to find that the time and date of that activity in the first entry was November 30th, 2023 at 10:36 p.m.
Central Standard Time, correct.
Okay, so we're going to have to do the math again on this.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So then the type of activity involved here, what was it?
The type is going to show the search.
So that indicates the user, in this case, Mr. Louisma's Facebook account is searching, and then the summary of the activity shows that he was searching was.
The terms of the search are within the parenthesis here, or not the parenthesis, the apostrophes. So Melody Hoffmanin. And on this one, the summary is where you're going to see whether it was searched or visited. So here it says searched.
Okay. Throughout this document, were you able to identify and then isolate searches and visits to Melody Hoffman's Facebook profile?
Yes, I was.
And did you also identify and then include within this exhibit searches and visits to Megan Hoffman's
Yes, I did.
profile? And then there's also another individual referred to as Nakia Reed. Remember that?
Yes,
And throughout your investigation in this case, were you able to confirm that Nakia Reed is also Nakia Sloboda?
correct, it is.
And then did you also isolate some searches / visits of a person who identified himself as Coda, K-O-T-A Smith?
Yes, I did.
And is your understanding in this investigation that that's the Facebook profile of Dakota Van Patten?
That is correct.
I'm going to test your memory on your examination of this, so I'll see how good you do, I guess. But in your review of this document, how many times did you find that the defendant, through his Facebook account here, searched for Melody Hoffmanin from November 30th through February 12th?
32 times.
After February 12th, how many times did the defendant search for Melody Hoffmanin?
0.
When was Melody Hoffman removed as a friend on Facebook, according to your examination?
On January 5th of 2024.
How many times did the defendant, through his Facebook account, search for Megan Hoffman on Facebook from December 16th, 2023 through February 19th?
17 times.
Breaking that down a little bit more, then that's a total of 17 during that time period, but from December 16th through January 7th, so the 2023 through 2024, how many times did he search?
Breaking it down, I believe it was 7.
On January 7th, 2024 alone, maybe we can just go down to that date here. January 7th, 2024.
I think it's just below that. I think we just passed it. So towards the bottom of that page.
And I guess now that we have this page up, we should know too that did you also isolate some visits to Maddie Brown on January 7th?
Correct, and that's the same, yes, Maddie Brown. There's 3 of them there. That is the same name that was on the profile where those messages were being sent, where we believed that Melody was posing as Maddie Brown.
And I guess we should clarify that per the UTC, that's actually on late on January 6th.
That's correct.
Is that consistent with the other exhibit we saw of the Maddie Brown that the defendant was talking with and was confirmed, well, was that you determined was actually Melody Hoffman?
Yes, it's in that same time frame.
So starting on January 7th itself, that starts down there at the bottom at what would be about 1:04 p.m. in the afternoon, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So on January 7th, how many times did you find that the defendant searched for Megan Hoffman?
I believe it was 3.
And based on your investigation in this case, is that also the same date of when the threatening text message from the text number was sent?
Yes, it was.
After January 7th, 2024 to February 14th, so now we're just a few days before the kidnapping and homicide.
What, if anything, does this prove?
How many, did the defendant do any searches or visit the page of Megan Hoffman?
1 time on January 15th.
Well, there's a long period there where there's no visits or searches besides the one time on January 15th.
Correct.
And again, just to clarify, this is all in this document here.
Yes, it is.
We're just saving having to go through every entry and having the jury run out of the box and tell us to stop.
Sure.
But they can find that in there, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let's talk about his Facebook search and visit activity from February 15th through February 19th, so the last few days here of Melody Hoffman's life. Did the defendant visit Megan Hoffman's Facebook page on February 15th?
Yes.
Did he visit her Facebook page on February 16th?
Correct. So this is the 15th.
When you serve on a jury, do I take lots of notes? Are Danish juries allowed to get written questions to the bailiff to get them answered mid-trial? I take a copious amount of notes. I can just ask the judge if I want a question answered. I'm sitting right next to the judge. If when we sit, we have the judge in the middle, and then we have our 2 laymen next to the judge. So if I can't hear anything, or if I have a question, I just lean in and whisper to the judge, and then they will ask it, or it's not that formalized that we have to go through all kinds of hoops. We don't have bailiffs serving us in court. Again, my breaks from court is in the deliberation room, and we're sitting in there with the judge. We don't go to a jury room, and the judges, remember, we are equal to the judge in that aspect. So the only thing is the judge runs the trial, but if I have a question, I can just lean in and say, did he say Saturday? If I don't catch it, but I take a lot of notes. Other people don't take any notes. I never take any notes of stuff like this. I would just write down what's on her Facebook page a lot before it happened. But it depends on what case it is too, and what witness it is. If it's the main witnesses, I tend to take more notes than like technical evidence. I'll write down. I do a lot of drawings if it's if they're trying. There's different version of a fight or something like that. I do a lot of drawings on actually in my notes. So it's dependent on what happens. Well, it's very very different because we don't have this level of showmanship in Danish trials. It's way more forward, and we don't have this. We don't trust experts without them going to a certain school. If you're a doctor, you're a doctor. We believe you're a doctor.
With the UTC conversion or Central Standard Time conversion, and then this would be the date on the 16th where it was searched, actually visited on both times, as you can see, with the UTC conversion to Central Standard Time on the 16th.
Then after that visit on Megan Hoffman's Facebook page late on the 16th, then the next entry we see is from February 18th, I guess about 6:23 in the PM. Is that right?
Yes, with that conversion, that is correct. February 18th.
What does this indicate in terms of where the defendants visited on Facebook?
We searched and then visited Iowa Missing Persons Alert.
And then after that, what do we see on the 19th?
At the bottom, approximately an hour later, the defendant searches and visits Megan Hoffman's profile.
So within the hour there, he's going from Iowa Missing Persons Alert to visiting Megan Hoffman, and then what's the next entry?
Again, it's on February 18th. This is going to be approximately 9:39 p.m. Yes, 9:39 p.m. Central Standard Time. Searched and visited Iowa Missing Persons Alert.
After that, within the next approximately hour and 12 minutes or so, what was his next activity on Facebook?
Megan Hoffman. Searches Megan Hoffman.
Scrolling down some more there, there's some visits to Megan Hoffman on what would be still on the 18th, I guess around 10:54 p.m. Is that right?
Correct.
What's he doing there?
Searches and then visits Megan Hoffman. Yep, at 10:54 p.m. on the 18th.
And then about a half hour or so later, what's the next thing?
Again, searches and visits Megan Hoffman at 11:26 p.m. on the 18th.
And then moving on to the next entry, which is that on February 19th then?
Correct. That would be approximately 5:42 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Again-
Searches Megan.
Someone is constantly searching Megan Hoffman on Facebook. What does it prove? This is before it happened.
Hoffman.
And the next entry down?
At 5:52 a.m. on the 18th, searches and visits Megan Hoffman.
Next entry then on the 19th, a few hours later.
Yes, so it'd be 12 p.m. Megan Hoffman.
So another search.
13:12, I'm sorry, so 1:12 p.m.
And then the final entry on this exhibit is what?
At 1:21 p.m. Central Standard Time on the 19th, he searched and visited Megan Hoffman.
Special Agent Louisma, in your training experience in evaluating Facebook records and Facebook activity, what is this pattern of activity consistent with here, particularly on the 18th and 19th?
It's consistent with the defendant Louisma visiting and searching for information from Megan Hoffman's profile or Iowa Miss. Well, no, that was the 18th and 19th. Sorry.
Would this be consistent with an individual checking to see whether there have been any updates or postings or information on Megan Hoffman and Megan Hoffman's Facebook page?
Yes, potentially any information that would have been posted by Megan Hoffman.
Clarify after.
As always, go look at Paul's second letter to the Corinthians. It's a good letter to read about. I don't know if that changed in your Bible as well, but it's a little misogynist, so they changed it in our Bibles. No longer does it say that women should not talk when men is present.
February 17th, well, after February 18th, you found no searches or visits for Melody Hoffman.
Correct. There was nothing after February 13th, I believe.
After February 13th?
Correct.
Okay, I think we're done with this exhibit, Your Honor. Now I'd like to show the witness State's Exhibit number 20C.
And I don't think, doesn't it say that
Exhibit number 20C?
ladies,
Yes, I do.
women shouldn't be teachers
Exhibit number
either?
20C generally.
This is the
a
screenshot
whole lot of
of
misogyny.
defendant Louisma's Facebook page with that identifier as the entity name as Kingzo, KXNGZOE.
Was this screenshot taken from the defendant's active Facebook page as of approximately February 19th, 2024?
Yes, it was.
And how do you know that that this was his active Facebook profile page at that time?
It's also consistent with the time when I viewed it after that. So it was a profile that was taken at that time through the preservations and stuff. You can see the same pictures and everything.
So through the preservation that was done with Facebook and through your own observations, you're able to confirm that this is what the defendant's Facebook profile was as of February 18th?
Yes, that's consistent with that information.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of the defendant's Facebook profile page and of the items contained therein?
Yes.
Move to enter State's Exhibit number 20C, Your Honor.
Objection to 20C.
Objection.
Objection overruled for the reasons previously stated. 20C is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
20C is published.
Looking at State's Exhibit 20C here, Special Agent Louisma, did this assist you in being able to confirm and identify that the Facebook page account titled KXNGZOE was indeed that of the defendant, McKinley Louisma?
Yes, it corroborates information with a photograph on the profile here of Mr. Louisma, the information about where he lived, and the relationship of who he was in a relationship with.
And that was going to be my next status. Through this Facebook profile, you're able to observe relationship status information.
Current, yes.
So is this information, this relationship status information, then that which existed again at the time this Facebook account was preserved on about February 18th, 2024?
That is correct.
Are you also able to obtain information from the Facebook profile page in terms of what's been used as a cover photo for the defendant?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and does that include a date when a cover photo is updated?
Yes, it does.
What does it involve to update a cover photo? What does a user have to do?
They have to go in and manually select a photo to upload.
Does that involve going into the settings function or?
Yes, do that or photos.
And then as a result, would the user be able to select a photo, update it, enter it, and then it becomes the cover photo?
Correct. So cover photo is typically what you'd see up top here. It's kind of cut off there, where it's usually a little bit larger on the view if you're viewing it on a web service.
And this cover photo, when was it updated? What date and time?
February 16th at 4:30 p.m. That was also consistent with the records we received from Facebook or Meta that showed that that is when that photo was uploaded.
Special Agent Louisma, are you familiar with the person or that's depicted here in the cover photo?
Yes, it's Jason Voorhees from the horror franchise Friday the 13th.
And generally, what is the Friday the 13th movies? What are they about?
Overruled.
Friday the 13th is a horror movie with Mr. Voorhees as the main subject who stalks and kills people around Crystal Lake, generally using a machete.
Okay, thank you, Your Honor.
I never watched any of those movies.
We're at the 12 o'clock hour, so we're going to go ahead and recess for lunch. Jurors will be in recess until 1:30. Remember the admonition and have a good lunch. We'll see you guys soon.
Special Agent Louisma.
He said 1:30, so again, 15 minutes late. They have so much wasted time in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor. Special Agent Louisma, before our lunch break, we had just,
Oh, sorry.
now I'd like to
I was just looking for the next break.
Yes.
now I'd like to show to you for identification purposes, State's Exhibit number 20D.
See you later, Adelaide.
See that?
Yes, I do.
You recognize State's Exhibit number 20D?
Yes, I do.
What is that?
It is a unified
Rachel.
message string between Melody's Instagram account, Melaroni_03, and a subject with the handle King_Leo_legend.
And when did that conversation take place?
On February 17th, late hours of February 17th, 2024.
What time?
It'd be about 8:57 p.m. Yeah, 17th.
You said this conversation was between Melody and another individual. Did you do any kind of investigation into that individual?
Not specifically, other than to just kind of see that the conversation between them, they had been friendly back and forth.
Hey,
through
Shax.
conversation.
In this conversation, is Melody Hoffmanin expressing some potential feelings towards this person and general state of mind at that time?
Yeah, she asked about a relationship, and then towards the end, one of the last conversations, she relates her feelings about wanting to be loved.
Is that a fair and accurate copy of that conversation?
Yes, it is.
Move to enter State's number 20D.
Any objection to 20D?
That's D like dog, correct?
Yes.
Thank you, no objection.
Exhibit 20D is admitted.
D.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
20D is published.
So Special Agent Louisma, this is, again, what you referred to in your description, a conversation between Melody Hoffmanin on Instagram and then another individual named King Leo Legend, right?
That's correct.
Okay, so then as the conversation begins there, approximately 8:57 p.m. on February 17, 2024, what does Melody say to this person?
I thought you wanted a relationship with me, but I guess not.
And then a few seconds later, what does she say?
You said that I could come to NYC.
And does this King Leo Legend account respond then, oh, about a minute and a half, minute, 20 seconds later.
Yes, with the word friendship.
And then within a few seconds, how does Melody respond?
Whatever with a facial emoji.
And about 10 seconds later, what is the response by King Leo Legend?
You okay?
And then how does Melody respond then about 7 seconds later?
Nope.
And then the final message on this exhibit then is sent by Melody just about a minute or so later. What does that say?
I just want a fucking person who actually fucking loves me besides my fam.
Language.
Thank you, Your Honor. We can take that now. Your Honor, may we approach?
I'm afraid to have Sue on my channel, and this lady is just F-bombing all over the place.
That's all I have for this witness for now, Your Honor.
Cross.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
When you began your testimony, Agent, did you testify that you were able to find an Instagram account for our client?
We did not initially find an Instagram account related to him. It was through review of Melody's Instagram account, which is where that AM_Spades conversation comes in, where she refers to him as Bubby and then Ken.
And it's that Instagram account, the Spades one, that your investigation linked back to McKinley, is that correct?
Correct. It contains the same profile photo as the Facebook.
May I have State's Exhibit 20D that we just were looking at?
Tell me when you're ready.
Agent, you just testified that this is an exchange where Melody is talking about frustration with the relationship. Is that true?
Jamie is, during the last presidency of 45, soon to be 47, he made a special force called the Space Force. For his 47th, he's gonna make an even secreter force. It'll be like the Deltas, the Navy SEALs, and the Danish frogmen combined. To lead that unit, only one person have the tenacity, the ability, and the skill set. Jamie has been called to Mar-a-Lago, where she's right now making plans for the upcoming very special branch of the US government. It'll be so secret that she will not be able to mention it. But it'll be known by the cricketers because they will only speak like her chirping crickets you will hear sometimes on stream. I wasn't supposed to talk about it, but it'll be very, very undercover. So Jamie, that's why she hasn't been on camera in a long time, because our enemies will not know what hit them when the cricketers takes over. SEAL Team 6, eat your heart out. The cricketers will be the solution.
Yes, with the relationship.
And you also just told me that the Instagram account that belonged to my client involved Spades. Is that correct?
Yes, it's a different handle. It's a different user.
Okay. So you would agree that King Leo Legend is not my client's Instagram page?
I don't have anything that shows that it is his page. Correct. You are correct.
So State's Exhibit 20D is actually showing a conversation between Melody and another person?
That's what it believes, yes.
And there's a reference in that about her wanting to come.
Yeah,
to
I know.
Presumably that's New York City, right?
That's what I took it to be, yes.
Did you do any additional investigation to determine who King_Leo_Legend is?
No further, no.
No, the cricketers.
Redirect.
No, Your Honor.
Thank you very much. State can call its next witness.
State calls Jeff Holst.
Again, what, if any, information did we get out of this witness other than before the incident they had talks on social media? I'm sorry, I'm just seeing less and less smoke on this fire. Maybe Jeff can fix it. I talked about Jamie's secret force that I'm already getting poisoned.
Please raise your right hand. Yes. You swear affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you would please start by stating and spelling your full name for the record.
Sure. It's Jeff, Jeff Holst, Holst.
Thank you. Go ahead, counsel.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon, Jeff.
Hi.
Let's ask a little bit about your background like we've been doing with everybody else here. First of all, what is your occupation?
I'm a police investigator with the Cedar Rapids Police Department.
And how long have you been an investigator with the Cedar Rapids Police Department?
I started employed at the police department in 2005 as a patrol officer, and then I transitioned to the investigative division in 2011. And I apologize, I have a sinus infection today, so my voice is kind of off.
Okay, if you could move the microphone closer, that's.
Sure. Yeah, is that better?
Okay, so you started with the police department in 2005, became an investigator in 2011,
That's correct.
and you still hold the assignment as investigator to this day.
Yes.
Let's talk a little bit more about your background here. How did you become certified as a peace officer in the state of Iowa?
I attended the Cedar Rapids Law Enforcement Academy. It's a local academy that's associated with the Iowa State Law Enforcement Academy.
And then you graduated from that in 2005?
Yes, I did.
What was your educational background?
Prior to that, I was a paramedic, so I worked for as a paramedic for about 5 years.
Have you had any,
999.
particular specialization in the area?
In Denmark, it's 112 or
Yeah, so when I went to
114.
investigations, I primarily worked sex crimes cases in the sex crimes
I
unit.
think in Britain it's 999, but I'm not sure.
Investigates child sexual abuse, serious injuries to infants and children, and death investigations for infants and children. So I did that for about 6 years. And then around 2017, I transitioned to what's called the Iowa Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. And we usually refer to that as IPAC. The Iowa Task Force is part of a nationwide task force. It's part of a nationwide task force. And so we investigate computer crimes that involve children. And
Can I do the wine mashing so I can just step into, I think mashed potatoes with my grubby feet will add a little je ne sais quoi to it.
that involves looking at mobile devices and computers. Can you hear me okay? I know there's some feedback over there.
I think we got it figured out.
Okay, just making sure.
Okay, so this ICAC, Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, did you receive any specific training in order to operate in that capacity?
Yeah, so my role on the task force is as a certified forensic computer examiner. And so there's investigators and there's examiners. The investigators do interviews, they follow up on leads. And as an examiner, what I do is I look at the electronic devices and try to find digital evidence. That training involves lots of different training over a 2-year period. Some of it was through the National White Collar Crime Association, the National White Collar Crime Center. But the majority of it was through an organization called the International Association of Computer Investigative Specialists. And so through that, there's a certification process that you do in order to, basically learn how to examine digital items in a sound way.
Nope.
In a way that we can.
I am a horrible cook.
Based on factual best
That's why I
practices.
married a cook, which is the
So through this
stupidest thing a
training,
baker can do.
through the DOJ's
Because
National White
they are
Collar Crime
never
Center and the International Association of Computer
on the same
Investigative
time
Specialists, you're gonna earn
schedule.
a certification, right?
Yes, and you maintain that certification just like anything else. Every few years, or every 3 years, you recertify. In order to do that, you have to take a test. But you also have to work a certain number of cases, and then also continue education hours. So it's a lot like being a nurse or a doctor, lawyer, anything like that. You just do continuing ed.
And does that certification then make you a certified forensic computer examiner?
Yes, it does.
What do you do for the Cedar Rapids Police Department as an investigator and also for the Internet Crimes Against Children's Task Force as a certified forensic computer examiner?
Well, my primary role is to find digital evidence. And so kind of the give and take of it is that Cedar Rapids allows me to be on the task force. And in return for that, the grant money from the DOJ pays for my training, my education, my equipment. And so although I primarily work on child exploitation cases, when there's other cases that are high-level felonies like a homicide, robbery, some drug cases, I participate in examinations of devices for those cases too. So that's the give and take. That's what Cedar Rapids gets out of it is, a person that's trained in that, which is pretty expensive. And the task force gets a body. And so that's kind of give and take. Works for everybody.
As part of that give and take, and even though you're employed as a Cedar Rapids police investigator with all these certifications, as part of that give and take.
We don't care about your qualifications. We just
Yes,
want
our
to get
jurisdiction is
the
statewide.
evidence.
Many of the examiners are centralized in Des Moines right now, but I'm on the eastern side. And so we get cases from all sorts of agencies, small agencies, big agencies. We do all sorts of different cases. And it's a good way to meet different people and see how different agencies investigate things because there's a variation amongst them. But we do get a lot of devices from the metro area here. So Marion Police Department, Hiawatha Police Department, Mount Vernon, Lisbon, that sort of thing.
Have you found since you obtained the certification as a computer certified forensic computer examiner that
I
there has been
can't
an increase
cook
in the
anything.
Requests for forensic examination of electronic devices?
I can boil eggs.
Yes, I mean,
I
I
do
imagine we all have a phone in our
scrambled
pocket
eggs.
or in
I
our
do-
coat somewhere. So yes, it's a huge volume of phones. It used to be we
What
were
do you
looking at
call it?
computers. Now it's almost entirely phones.
Hi,
There's
Dave.
even people that used to do illegal activities on computers.
I'm good at
phones are so
that.
advanced that they don't need a computer anymore.
In other words, you're a very popular guy.
Well, that's a nice way to say it. Yes, thank you.
I want pizza today.
How did you become involved in the case of the homicide of Melody Hoffmanin?
I was contacted by the Marion Police Department in February of 2024, and they asked if I could take a look at some phones that they had regarding this case.
Specifically, were you requested to conduct your forensic examination of the phones of McKinley Louisma, the defendant in this case, and Dakota Van Patten?
Yes, that's correct.
Can you tell us about the process involved here, how you perform the extraction and processing of data from these devices generally, and how you did in this case?
Sure. So there's 3 basic steps, and of course, I would bore all of you if I explained all of it in detail, but the 3 basic steps are you do the extraction of information. Sometimes people refer to this as a phone dump because you're dumping information out of the phone into a software program. The second step is we have to process all that information because we don't look through the phone, at least initially, we don't look through the phone manually because you can miss some information there. There's a lot of stuff going on in the background on your phone. And so we have to have software in the second step that parses all of that out for us and presents it in a readable way, in a way that we can navigate. So there's like a list of categories down the side and we can look through the phone information.
Salad pizza.
The third part is the analysis,
Like,
and that's where my job kind of comes in a little bit more
Kebab
because
meat on it.
we have to be able to interpret what's going on on the phone.
Or
correctly.
just the
And
meat
so
lovers.
some things are easy. If it's a picture and somebody took the picture, that's easy. If it's a text message and somebody
Yes,
sent it,
Brandon,
that's
I
easy.
do
But
love
sometimes we have
meat.
to look at other things and try to figure out what was going on with the phone, that sort of thing. So I do analysis on that side of it. So those are the 3 steps. We extract the data, we process the data, and then we analyze the data.
Okay, so there's the extraction, which is the phone dump, there's the processing of the data, and then you conduct your analysis, right?
That's correct.
You mentioned that in order to perform the extraction part, the phone dump part, it requires the use of some kind of software.
That's correct.
Can you tell us what that software does?
Yes, so there's 2 main companies in the world that do software extractions on phones. And the reason for that is that if we have a passcode for a phone, we can oftentimes extract information pretty easily. If we don't have a passcode, it sometimes gets harder. So there's only 2 companies that really are in this business. One is Celebrate, which some people may have heard because that's been around a little bit longer. Another one is called Magnet Forensics, and they have a product called Graykey. And both the Celebrate product and the Magnet Forensics product, the Graykey, access devices and pull data off of them. And again, if you think of a phone, as having 2 users, the person who's using it and then the operating system that's working in the background. So it pulls all of that. Otherwise, we could just look at the phone and go through it and see a portion of information, but we try to get all the information that we can.
So this software then extracts from the operating system as well?
Yes, there's 2 sides to most phones. There's the operating system side and there's the user side, and it extracts data from both of those sides. So you're getting a fuller picture when you do that sort of extraction. Now, some devices we can't get a full extraction, so it's kind of a tiered thing. You can get what's called a full file system extraction, which is kind of the gold standard, and then you can get a partial extraction, and then you can get several other ones that give you less and less data. And so we try to do a full file system extraction, and in this case, we were able to do that with the different phones.
So you're doing the full file data extraction here, and the software accesses the data. How does it decode the data in a way that makes it readable for you?
It puts it into a program that I use it's got categories on the side. So it'll have like media category, which has subcategories of videos, still shots, different things like that. It'll have internet browsing category. I mean, there's lots of categories, but the ones that we would be interested in would be like internet browsing, photos, text messages, Facebook messages, those sorts of things. So really anybody can look at that program and easily navigate through it. I could give it to anybody in the room and they could do that pretty easily. And then once data is identified as being important to the case, then I usually come in and I look at that data and I validate whether or not.
I like American style. That's what we call the thick one. That's called American style in Denmark. I do like that.
It is what it appears to be, because sometimes with computers and phones, it's not what it appears to be. So it's very important, that we make sure that the data is valid.
So you described the process there where the data is decoded and then put into these categories, right? And
Yes.
so if you were looking at the download report, then are these categories going to be like on the side of the report there? Sometimes we see in a PDF, you can just tap on something and it goes right to that area.
Yes, yeah, there's a navigation on the left-hand side of all the categories. And when you click on that category, it'll display something in the middle, which is usually the content. And then if that content has several different pieces of content in it, you click on one of those and it displays further on the right side of the actual item. So for instance, a photo, you click on media, you click on photos, it lists all the photos for you. You click on individual photo and it shows it to you in a bigger screen format on the right-hand side. And then it has all the information about that photo that it was able to decode. So information that you and I would know, like the time and date, that sort of thing. But it also has things called file paths and other metadata that isn't necessarily displayed to the user of the phone, especially if you have like an iPhone. That stuff isn't displayed to the user. And so it's
I could make a joke, but it's Sunday, so I won't say anything about it's a good diet to smoke a lot of things. Just see all the crackheads. I won't make that joke today because it's Sunday. This is a Christian channel, Jamie.
it's more information than we could get by just going through the phone.
Okay. So when you get to these categories of data, is there another term that these categories are referred to as?
Yeah, so they've historically been called artifacts, which we used to be able to use in court because we say forensic artifacts. But I was told one time that, not by you, but I was told one time that some people don't believe in dinosaurs and things like that. So we kind of migrated away from artifacts because we used to use that as an analogy. What I like to use is an analogy of a puzzle. So each one of those artifacts is like a piece of a puzzle. If you think about a table puzzle, it's kind of big, one that would take you quite a few days to do. One individual piece of the puzzle or artifact does not necessarily make a lot of sense. But as you put more pieces together, more artifacts together, then it starts to form a picture. And even if you don't have a complete puzzle, or
you don't use
you can kind of see where it's going.
the word artifacts, and then you use the word artifact constantly.
Yeah, I'll slow down. I'm sorry.
Within those artifacts, then you mentioned earlier, you can access some information that's not readily available to the user, him or herself, who's looking at the phone, right?
That's correct.
And so that
We
includes
just get to the
things
evidence.
like the timestamp.
Out of or generated out of the software that we were talking about. So as I navigate around through the software, I identify information that may be important to the case, and then I can tag that information. And
27.
No, Your Honor.
Exhibit 27 is submitted.
Finally.
Exhibit 27 is published.
Okay, Investigator Holtz, we're going to go through this exhibit. And just to clarify before we begin here, this exhibit contains samples of data that you extracted, that you interpreted, and that you put together, but doesn't have all the data, right?
that's correct. There's thousands of pieces of data in here. And in fact, on an iPhone, a typical iPhone, you have more than 1 million pieces of data that are classified as artifacts. Some of them are not important to our case, but we try to pick a handful to kind of keep things simple.
So even though somebody might groan saying 39 pages, it could be a lot more.
Yeah, it was definitely a lot more when we went through it.
Let's go ahead and start here. Then, without further ado, I believe that we're just kind of on the first page right now, and just give us an indication of what we're looking at on this page and the information that you intended to collect and present.
Sure. So you can see where the pink road here is Interstate 380.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt you. There's a laser pointer up.
Oh,
You don't mind using that for us, and then
Sure.
just a little image.
Okay, so right here is Interstate 380, runs north and south, and then one of the cross streets is Tower Terrace Road, which recently had an exit built for it, so if that helps you guys understand a little bit better. And then where you see the plot pin, that is a trailer park. It's located, I believe, in the Hiawatha city limits. And so where you see these red pins is where I'm specifically talking about. I try to have the map be big enough that you can see reference points, but then also small enough that you can see where the pin is.
What's the pin represent?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
What's the pin represent? Location of?
The device. Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. And then as we scroll down here, it's a little bit more. We've got the artifact information here. What does this tell us?
As you go through this, you'll see that it's the same repeating pattern of, latitude, longitude. But the most important thing is the timestamp, because that's what's most useful about it. So you want to look at the map and the timestamp. Those are the most useful things for an investigation.
What does timestamp say here?
Yeah, this timestamp says February 17th, 2024, 8:28:29 p.m. And that's adjusted for local time.
And what does it mean when it states on artifact cache locations?
The cache locations is an area that the system on the phone uses. It's not a user area of the phone. So the user wouldn't be able to see this area, but the phone leaves it there. And whenever you see the word cached, just think of temporary, because it doesn't live there forever. It's not like a photo you take of your kids. This will get purged at some point as the user uses the phone.
Moving on, we have some source information, recovery method, deleted source, those type of things. Just tell us what it is on this particular page so we kind of know moving forward what it indicates in others.
Yeah, so this is the stuff that I referenced earlier. I apologize. I thought the jury could see the screen. This is the stuff I referenced earlier that's more for my benefit. And the reason for that is the source, which looks like a link. It's got blue.
No, this is just
source right here.
locations.
That tells me as an examiner where that actual information was found on the device. And so think of a folder on your computer, a folder on your phone. That's where it's at. The recovery method is parsing. That's kind of a technical term. There's parsing and there is carving. And in this case, parsing is what was used. All this data is being presented in a user-friendly way, but most of it's contained in some type of file. The most common type of file is called an SQLite database. And so it's just a database file and it has tables and columns in it. And so that's why when it says location, it has a table and then it has the table name and then it has an actual location of it. So even though that looks like it doesn't mean much, to a person like me, it allows me to go straight to that location and verify that the software is interpreting it correctly, because it has to interpret it. An example real quick is the time and date. When you go to that database, the time and date does not get displayed like it is on the screen. The time and date is in seconds since a particular date. So for instance, Apple uses Apple Absolute Time, which is the number of seconds since January 1st, 2001, I believe. So that's the raw data that the software is helping decode, because if I had to do that, it would take forever. So that's how this stuff gets here. But it's also why you need to check it, because sometimes that's wrong. And so you always have to look at things in context of the case. I guess that's the most important thing.
Great. And then the evidence number here, does that indicate the phone?
Yeah, it's a tracking number. And, I referenced a gray key earlier. You see the G and the K. That just helps me remember what I did. You see FFS, that's full file system. And so that helps me look at this and say immediately I know exactly what kind of extraction this was if I need my memory to be jogged.
In this case, it's a full file system.
That's correct.
And the phone here, does that just indicate the type of phone here?
Yes.
All right, now that we know kind of what some of those details mean here, let's go to the next location that you charted out here. What do we see here?
This is the Walmart on the west side of Cedar Rapids. And so I picked this because it was, I get investigative files from the investigators and I read through them to try to understand the case as best as I can. And so I picked this file because it was my understanding that part of the investigation may have determined that there was travel to this area. And so I thought it was pertinent.
What time did the phone show that it was located at the Walmart on the southwest side?
This shows 9:50 p.m. on February 17th.
And Investigator Holst, if there's anything that, as I scroll here, you want me to stop and point out, please let me know, okay?
Sure, yeah, the most important things are just the time and then obviously the map itself. The rest of it, if I start explaining it to you every time, would probably get pretty boring.
Okay, all right. So we got some more information here. What are we seeing here?
So I put this in here because even though there's no map, it's an event that occurred around the same time. And so you'll see the 9:50 time that I'm using my laser on. 9:50 was about the time of the arrival at Walmart. If people have an iPhone or even an Android phone, you'll know that oftentimes it counts your steps. It's got a pedometer inside of it, kind of an advanced one. And what Apple does is it doesn't just count your total number of steps for the day. So, yes, you get 10,000 steps, that's great. But what it also tries to do is look at those steps in context and identify trips that you made. And so, it tries to learn your behavior and figure out, hey, this person didn't just pace across the floor 10 times. They actually walked somewhere and they came back. And so this indicates that there was 547 steps taken beginning at 9:50 p.m. and ending around 10 p.m. And if you go down to the next one, you'll see this kind of pairs up. Okay, so you see the start date is 10 p.m. The end date is 10:08, and it's roughly the same amount of steps. It's 526. So that's what I say is, we look at different information and match it up in context to make sure that what we're seeing is what we think we see. Because sometimes, there's errors in this kind of stuff. Apple may have made an error with that step. So if this said, 2 steps, I would look at it and say, well, that's not very reliable data. But when I see that the steps generally match up, it seems more reliable.
So we've got, at this point in time, 2 different walking or moving type events here. And to clarify, these are both taking place at the location of the Walmart?
That's correct.
Kind of an in and out kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the simple way to look at it.
Moving down to our next location, was there anything else about this that you wanted to point out?
No.
Okay, moving down to our next location, we see the phone being in the vicinity of Lindale Mall. So what are you intending to depict here?
So this is after the Walmart location. And what I was trying to show here is I saw other data points that indicated that there was travel along Collins Road in Northeast Cedar Rapids. And so I picked this point as the next time because again, I didn't want to have, instead of 39 slides, we could have had 139 slides. So I tried to keep it concise. And this time happens to be 11:18 p.m. So it's sometime after Walmart, but it just gives you an idea of where this device was saying that it was at the time.
So 11:18 p.m. the device is then on Highway 100.
Yes, it's on Highway 100, also called Collins Road, near Lindale Mall.
We're moving to the next location here, and what are we depicting as far as the location in this next artifact?
So where I'm pointing here with the laser is Highway 100 in Marion. If you think about it, you're going to have the intersection of Lindale Mall and Highway 100. You continue east into East Post Road. Most people know what East Post Road is, and that's a location that it is showing that the device was near.
And what time is that at?
11:22 p.m. on the 17th.
And so this is the intersection of East Post Road and Highway 100. Are you familiar with that area?
That's correct. And I think in Marion, I want to say it's South 11th Street, but I don't work in Marion, so I might have that off a little bit.
The next location here, noted, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the reason I picked this was because it was my understanding that this may have been where the victim in this case may have been staying or frequented, and so I thought that would be important.
I'm gonna up this to 2.
So you marked this location because it was consistent with the information investigation of where Melody Hoffmanin lived?
Yes.
And then at what time do you have Mr. Louisma's device in that area?
This is 11:24 p.m.
And again, stop me if you want to point out something about the rest of the information. We're just going to keep moving along, okay?
Sure.
So the next location you have marked here, tell us about that.
This just shows that the device is moved a little bit. It's moving towards East Post Road, and the next as you go down, you'll see it go south.
And what time is it moving south from that location that you previously noted to be consistent with Melody Hoffman's residence?
11:28 p.m.
Then you've charted another location for us here. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the data shows that the device is moving westbound on Highway 100, approaching First Avenue, which would be back by the Lindale Mall area.
And what time is the device in that area?
11:29 p.m. on the 17th.
Moving along, we have another location here for the device that you noted, and where's that?
That's on Collins Road Northeast near Mill Ridge Park, just east of Interstate 380, and it's traveling westbound in this case.
And what time is it in the area of Norwich Park and Collins Road?
11:34 p.m.
I never had mac and cheese. Is it just macaroni and then you chuck cheese on top of it and melt it? Or what is mac and cheese?
What we're seeing is movement of the phone consistent with it moving westbound on Highway 100 / Collins Road.
Yes, and it's important to understand that there are so many of these locations noted on the phone because the phone's trying to make your experience better. That these are just a few, but it tracks it. If you see the whole map, you can actually see it tracking. So even though these are spaced apart a little bit, there's tons of them in between that really show the picture. So that's kind of the backstory as to how I'm doing this. Okay.
The next location, tell us what you're noting there.
So this is Collins Road or Highway 100 westbound, and it's the off ramp to Edgewood Road Northeast in Cedar Rapids. And I thought this location was important because I learned some information about the investigation that noted that a phone was located in this location.
But at this point in time, where do you see that Mr. Louisma's device?
At 11:37 p.m.
Moving along to the next location, what are you intending to depict here?
This is southbound on Edgewood Road Northeast, approaching the Cedar River, so the Edgewood Road Bridge.
I never had mac and cheese because it's not a Danish thing. So we don't have that. In Switzerland, you can buy that little box Kraft mac and cheese or something. I never had it. I ate what was given to me as local things, and I didn't like most of it. A can of nacho cheese? Cheese in a can? Ugh.
And at what time is the device moving southbound on Edgewood Road near the Cedar River?
11:39 p.m.
Moving along then to the next location that you've charted for us. Where's this?
I skipped ahead a little bit because, again, there was just a whole bunch of marks on Edgewood Road, and that would get a little bit cumbersome. This is notable because, according to the investigative reports that I received, investigators had gone to Morgan Creek Park and conducted an investigation there, and I found that the device was showing that it was there at a particular time.
Is this location consistent with being inside Morgan Creek Park near the parking area with the pavilion nearby?
Yes, and not too many years ago, this wouldn't be as accurate, but in this case, it's a fairly accurate representation of where it's at. So it really does know whether or not you're in the parking lot versus an adjacent road. Most of us remember in the old days, it would show you on the road, but you're actually way over here. It's not like that anymore. So this was pretty notable.
Okay. And at what time was Mr. Louisma's device in that aforementioned area of Morgan Creek Park?
We transitioned into 2/18, so February 18th at 12:09 a.m.
Which, to the next location, appears that the device is still in the vicinity of Morgan Creek Park. Is that right?
Yes, I zoomed out a little bit here to give some knowledge of the area, just so you can see some landmarks.
And is this approximately the same time as the last noted location?
Yeah, this is 12:09 a.m. on the 18th.
Hey, my cozy co.
Now this will kind of go into the map below it. So if you know the time, it's still in Morgan Creek Park. And if you know the time, it's 12:26. So we've moved from 12:09 a.m. to 12:26 a.m. So they've been there for or whoever is in, with the device has been there for some time.
So by my math, then, for about 17 minutes or so.
That sounds right. I wasn't very good with math, so I don't know.
A lot of math today. Moving along then to the next location. It looks like you've recorded for us some more of that health data. Is that right?
Yes, this is just like the Walmart thing that I did to try to show you that, okay, now we know that the device arrived somewhere around 12:09 and say they're till 12:26-ish. And the steps that Apple Health noted started around 12:09 and went to 12:19, and the number of steps taken was 28. So a lot less than the Walmart trip, but considering this device is at a park, there's not as much space to move around in a parking lot.
So from 12:09 to 12:19, approximately 10 minutes, this indicates, while in possession of the phone at least, the individual.
Well, it depends on which kind of cheese, because I don't like soft cheeses, and I don't like those cheeses that smell like they can walk themselves. I like cheddar and Havarti and milder kind of cheeses, but not all that weird one. All the French stuff that's moldy. Ugh.
Took approximately 28 steps.
Yes, and it's fairly accurate because, like, again, just like the location data, Apple has really fine-tuned their software, even just since 2018, to know like whether you're running, whether you're walking, that type of thing. So it's fairly accurate. I found just over time looking at different cases.
Can you tell by this information that you accessed whether there was walking or running going on?
No, what I like to do is I like to compare. Well, there's corresponding data here that shows the length that they went, and you'll see that later. This particular one I didn't include the distance that they went, but you can compare the number of steps to the distance and kind of use common sense and say, well, do you think they're running? Do you think they're walking? That type of thing.
Okay. We have some more health data information here from 12:19 to 12:28, so a 9-minute period there. What did you know about that here in the Century?
Well, again, that's kind of the end date or the end time. 12:28 is close to the 12:26 that we showed.
We have like a cheddar mix, and then for shredded cheese, and then we have a Tex mix. I like to use those when I'm making like wraps or tacos and stuff like that.
The car or the vehicle or where the phone was at was still in that area of Morgan Creek Park. And then, of course, there's 29 steps, which coincides with the previous slide. So again, we try to match those things up to make sure that we're not misinterpreting data.
And so the two groups of data here you just talked about for approximately the same time period here, is that consistent with, among other scenarios?
I never had a pretzel in my life.
Yes, it is, and that's why Apple logged it as two separate things. So I mean, there are lots.
Oh, I got some pepper jack. I like that. I got some. What was that? Pacino, something with a lot of cheese in it. The last evening I was in the US, I was a pepper jack and something. Pimento. That was a little too cheesy.
Smarter than we are, their engineers are, and they're able
Pimento,
to see that.
yeah,
and
sounds like
phone
it.
detects that sort of thing. It's not perfect, but when you see numbers like this, it seems to make sense.
Was it pimento? I think it was.
Moving on to the next entry here, you recorded another location. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, I think there might be one of these slides that's a little bit out of order. Can you scroll down to the next one and just see if this happens to be the one? Yeah, this is the one that I put out of order. I apologize. So this slide
not
shows
pimento.
that they're moving northbound on Edgewood Road Northeast, approaching.
Yeah,
this here,
pimento
the
cheese.
previous slide that you just showed.
But it was a lot of cheese, and then it's only a little bit of crackers. It wasn't I didn't know what it was. I just ordered it because we don't have it in Denmark, and it was okay, but it wasn't great because it was cold. That was weird.
Shows them back on Collins Road or Highway 100 going eastbound. And when I say them, I'm talking about the device. It's always important to know that we're just talking about a device at this point.
Understood. So even though we're kind of out of order here, since we want to keep scrolling in the same direction, we'll tackle this here. What does this show in terms of where the device is located? When the device is located on Collins Road going east, at what time is that?
That time is 12:44 a.m. and it's near Knowledge Park, which is the reference point that I used earlier too.
And then going back.
Well, I can't do it while I'm trial watching because I have to be in my other room, so I can't control it. But I will get back. I just did some things to my studio today. I am looking at, but again, all of this will take a long time to finish, so I have to set it up.
Same time, I guess here we have the location noted going back north on Edgewood Road. Is that right?
Yes, this was prior to them getting on 100 and going east.
And at what time are they back heading northbound? Where the device heading northbound Edgewood Road?
12:37 a.m.
So we're only about.
You can't eat fondue when it's cold because that's melted cheese. So fondue cold is just cheese.
9 minutes or so off from leaving Morgan Creek Park.
Yes, that sounds right.
The next location you charted here, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I skipped ahead a little bit because, again, there's lots of movements with a device like this. This is movement that is actually going through Marion. It's just to indicate that the device eventually made it to Marion and then was going back towards Cedar Rapids from Marion. But instead of being on Highway 100, it's closer to Marion Boulevard, which would be, I believe, 7th Avenue in Marion. So you go past Zoe's, you go past the Marion Square, all that kind of stuff, and then you eventually get to Cedar Rapids.
So at this point in time, the device had moved back into Marion from Highway 100, now it's coming back out?
I believe so, yes. And if the next slide shows something different, I'll have to rephrase what I just said, but I'm just trying to go off memory here. So
what time does this show the device in that area of Marion Boulevard / 7th Avenue near Highway 100?
It's 1:22 a.m.
So you didn't necessarily chart for us the activity that happened inside Marion before it came back out. You're just showing the device coming back out of Marion.
Yes, that's correct. I figured the investigators probably knew better what was going on potentially in Marion at that time than I do, because I don't know all the facts of this case. I'm primarily looking at the data and trying to match it up to kind of an outline of the case.
The next location you charted here, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so I picked this again because it's a common reference point. It's Knowledge Park. Is to the south, and the device is traveling westbound on Collins Road.
And what time is that device traveling back westbound on Collins Road?
This is 1:25 a.m. on the 18th of February.
Then the next location you've charted for us here is, details about that.
This is Edgewood Road, Southwest, near Glass Road. And it's notable that when they run 100, Highway 100, the only way to get to Edgewood Road would be to exit at Edgewood Road, which is where another device was found. So that's the second time that this particular device has been in that area, and then it traveled south towards Glass Road.
You mentioned earlier Edgewood Road Southwest, but this appears to be northeast, right?
Yes, I'm sorry. In this particular part is northeast because it's by Glass Road.
And
that's
what time is that device in that location?
That's at 1:30 a.m.
And you charted another location for us here in this next entry. What are you depicting here?
This is closer to the intersection of Edgewood Road and 16th Avenue Southwest.
And what time is the device noted to be in that location?
At 1:37 a.m.
Now we jumped ahead a little bit more here. Where is the device then depicted at this juncture of your report?
So this is near Walford, off of Highway 151, moving southwest or west.
And what time is it moving in that direction?
2:02 a.m.
Is this consistent with the vehicle then grabbing southbound on Edgewood Road and then hooking up with Highway 151 to go south?
Yes, I mean, I've done that tons of times, and this is the route that I would take if I was going to Walford.
And what time is that in Walford? I think we already covered that. But
We did cover that, but it's 2:02 in the morning, 2:02 a.m.
now you've noted here another location for the phone. Can you tell us about that?
So this location, I zoomed in a little bit. It's the Lily Pond near the Amana Colonies, and I knew that was significant simply because my understanding was the victim's body was found here.
What time did you know the phone's location being in Lily Pond?
This shows 2:15 a.m.
Now looks like we have some more information here on health data. Is that right?
Yes, you've probably caught on to my pattern by now. This is going to be two slides of health steps. Steps out, steps back is what I'm interpreting it as, simply because that's the way Apple tracks it as. And so these are 320 steps were noted, starting at 2:15 and ending at 2:23.
So this indicates then that the phone
Doesn't look to be that hard. Just do a Mornay sauce and
at this time, and those steps were recorded on the phone to be 8 minutes in duration.
That's correct.
Mix
And
in
there's
some
a
pasta.
distance associated with this too, but I believe other investigators were able to
You
document that
sneaky.
in other parts of the case.
That's what you left up to the other investigators. Is that
Yes, yes,
You said there was a second set. So the first set is 320 steps. Is that right?
that's correct.
And the second set of health steps, tell us about that.
Second set is 2:51, which is fewer steps. It occurs at 2:25 to 2:34 a.m.
In your experience then interpreting this data, noting that the distance would be approximately the same between this entry and the last entry, what is the lesser amount of steps correlate with among other options?
That would indicate the device is moving faster because the distance has not changed, but the steps have reduced, and so the stride has to be longer.
And we have a location here noted in this next entry. Can you tell where this is?
Yes, this is close to Highway 151. In this case, they're traveling northbound, approaching Walford up in the top part of the map. I just use that as a reference so people understood.
And what time is the device heading back northbound to outside Walford there?
2:37 a.m.
And what are we depicting here in the next location of the phone?
And just showing that it passed through Walford and continued northeast on Highway 151.
As it passes through Walford, what time is noted as the when the device is in that location?
2:44 a.m.
This looks like a familiar location that you know before.
Yes, Edgewood Road, northeast, just north of the Cedar River. And I believe that was just a few minutes later than the other slide.
And that was noted to be approximately what time?
3:07 a.m.
Now you've noted another location here. What's this?
The device is moving eastbound again on Collins Road northeast near Norwich Park.
And what time is the device moving eastbound near Norwich Park?
I'm sure it's looking to scroll up one. There we go. 3:13 a.m.
There's another location here noted. Where are you noted here?
So this is C Avenue northeast, and if it would be from Collins Road northeast, so you're going north.
And what time is the device noted to be heading north on C Avenue Northeast from Westbury Road?
3:32 a.m. And there were other movements in this northeast side of Cedar Rapids, but I believe other investigators documented those with other evidence. So I just skipped ahead to this part.
When you talk about that, you're talking about the video surveillance from traffic cameras and things like that.
Yes.
So you're not including every location. You're just giving us more information on where the device was.
That's correct. And I also compare the times too, because you'll get locations on these devices that don't make any sense. You'll see that they're moving at a certain trajectory, and then you'll get one that's really off. And that can happen for a number of reasons. It's not that the device is making a mistake, but I think it's important to note, since we've been going through all this, that the device uses different strategies to determine location. And sometimes that is at the app that they're using wants to pull from a different type of location information. Other times it's because the device isn't able to get the highest quality location information. So an example would be if you're downtown in Cedar Rapids with taller buildings, you may be in a situation where you can't get your GPS data very well. Anybody that's satellite radio has probably experienced that, where it cuts out. And so then there's good, better, and best location information. So the best would get knocked off, and you'd have to do the better. And if that's not available, you have to do good. So sometimes we get location data that is just off a little bit from the trajectory. The other times that can happen sometimes is, let's say that you live in Marion and you pulled up your weather app in Marion, and then you travel to Iowa City and you pull that app up again. Oftentimes you'll see on your screen that it switches. You'll still say Marion and then it switches to Iowa City because it updates your location. In that instance, you can sometimes get a hit to show that they were located in Marion at that time. But again, if you match up the context of all the other case facts, you'll know whether that's accurate or not. Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Hopefully.
So what you just explained then is just kind of how locations are updated.
Yes, and so that's why I picked these, is because these I know for sure we're traveling along a predictable and a consistent trajectory.
These are all the same device, as I understand it. This is the defendant's device we're looking at. So, but again, it's just they were at the locations. Hopefully, we'll soon get to
We
something
left off,
relevant.
just talked about this particular location, C Avenue Northeast from Blair's Ferry Road. And so it looks like, moving on, you've included something a little different in here. Can you tell us what you intended?
Finally.
Yes, so the next slide will explain this a little bit better, but I was contacted by the Marion Police Department and asked to follow up on a picture that was located on a different device than the one we've been talking about. It was a Nord 200, I believe, Android device, and that was reportedly belonging to Dakota Van Patten, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And they said, hey, we see this picture. And of course, as investigators in Marion, they understand this picture better than I do because I have no idea where this picture's at. They said, hey, we have this picture, but we don't have location data on the picture, but we believe that it's a certain apartment. Can you see if there's any evidence on the device to match that up? And so this picture, if we can scroll down and note the time, you can see some garages there. The time is 3:36 a.m. on February 18th. That's the last modified time. Those times above that, those are not valid times. That's similar to the Apple absolute time we talked about earlier, number of seconds since a certain date. This happens to be Unix time, which is a different operating system. And it's the number of seconds since January 1st, 1970. The reason that you see a date of December 31st, 1969 at 6 p.m. is because it adjusts to local time, which is 6 hours behind. So that's why you see those things. So again, this is why you can't take anything at face value, because if you didn't have the modified date, you would immediately know that that doesn't make any sense. You know, cell phones weren't invented in 1969.
Appreciate that, because that does seem a little bit out of order, doesn't it?
Yes, but remember the time here. That's because that's important, 3:36 a.m.
So in essence then, are you telling us based on your training experience, although the date of December 31st, 1969 helps provide an accurate time for tracking on this device, in other words, it should be disregarded as any kind of time point in this case?
Yes, it is. And it's important to note that that time is not actually inside the database table that I talked about. What's in that database table is no data at all. And so my software interprets that as, well, there's no data, so it must start at 0. And 0 happens to be January 1st, 1970, or adjusted December 31st, 1969. So if you looked at the raw data, instead of saying there's, 237,538 seconds, it would say 0. And so it just doesn't, it's not logging the created time and the last access time in this case. It's only doing one timestamp. And again, that's because the purpose of this is for the operating system's benefit. It's not for our benefit. We're just using it for that. So we know that the modified timestamp is reliable, but we know based on common sense that the other one isn't. And I actually went to the database and looked manually, which is called validation in forensics. And I found that it was 0 in the database. And so I confirmed that that's why that shows 12/31/69, because it was actually 0 and the software interprets it differently.
Does this come from Mr. Louisma's device or Mr. Van Patten's?
This picture comes from Van Patten's, which is why you see this change, because you noticed on the other slides probably that we didn't see this 1969 thing. This is on an Android device, and it's a picture taken on an Android device. And so it is applying a different mechanism to a timestamp than the Apple device does.
So where does this time come from then, 3:36?
That comes from the device's time, which is typically set by the cell phone provider. If you turned your cell phone off, it still has an internal counter, but it's not as accurate. So the time on here would be the time on that person's
If you go
phone.
back on my channel, I also made, in Denmark, we call them sausage horns. Easy recipe to do. And it's with a dough that you can use for a lot of things.
You manually change your time on your phone, it's going to be whatever the system or network time is.
Does that show that this picture was last modified or accessed on that phone at 3:36 a.m.?
Yes, the file system wrote that picture at 3:36 a.m. Some devices add extra data called EXIF data or metadata that will be more precise. They'll have location information and other times. So sometimes you get 2 timestamps from 2 different buckets. In this case, you just have 1 bucket, and it's the file system bucket, and it's 3:36 a.m.
Does that mean, and is that consistent in your analysis of when that picture was taken?
Yes.
What?
And what can you tell us, if anything, about the picture itself as far as the location was taken?
When Marion contacted me, they pointed out that there's garages there, and I've lived, when I was younger, I lived in an apartment and I had garages like that. It's a set of detached garages, and those are typically close to apartments. So that kind of made sense to me when I heard them say that. And then you see what appears to be a speedometer and maybe a tach also on there. And so it looks like whoever's taking the picture is taking it from inside a vehicle out the front windshield, and it's showing these garages. It's also dark out, so that gives credibility to the timestamp. Certainly it's not during the day. And then the path for this photo, the file path, is related to Snapchat, the Snapchat app.
So is this consistent with a Snapchat photo being taken on the OnePlus Nord device at approximately 3:36 a.m.?
Yes, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it was sent. It just means that Snapchat was using the camera at that time, and it may have been sent to somebody, or it may have just captured that particular view. Because if you open Snapchat, I just recently got it because I recently got Snapchat because my family uses it, and whenever I open Snapchat, it shows a picture of me. The camera's facing at you, and it's kind of a reminder of how old you are sometimes. But where I'm going with that is that when you open up the Snapchat app, it immediately activates the camera, which is not like other apps. Most other apps don't do that. But it usually activates the front-facing camera. So since this is pointing out, it tells me that either the user activated the rear camera or they turned the phone in an unnatural way. So the front-facing camera is facing outside the car.
Or you have
What
set it up to
information other
always
do you have about this
use the
photograph
front-facing
rotating
cap,
other than what was told you by Mary
because you're not a
I
14-year-old
tried to
girl
see if there was location
do
data that would match
selfies.
up to this timestamp. And the reason this timestamp or this location is interesting is because the Marion Police Department indicated to me that they believed that the defendants in this case went to an apartment complex, and knowing Marion like they do, they actually identified this complex as an apartment complex they're familiar with. So they thought it was a particular location. And then I used the location data to confirm that, yes, that's the location that this picture was taken.
Was that location confirmed as the Azure Apartments on Bentley Drive?
Yes, and oftentimes we just say the Bentley Road Apartments. So I'm glad you said that because I was struggling to remember what the actual official name was.
Next location, where did you, what are you noting as the next location of the Louisma phone?
So this is the beauty of technology. This is one that I ordered a little bit too. If you scroll down to the next one, you'll see the entrance to the Bentley Drive Apartments. So just scroll down to that one, and there you go.
Thank you.
Okay, and if you scroll down a little bit more, you'll see the time stamp, 3:36 a.m. Same timestamp as the picture that was on a separate device. So that's important to understand. It's a separate device, but they're matching up.
And this is the Azure Apartments, or what you know as the Bentley Drive Apartments?
Yes, and that's the entrance to them, which is the angle that picture appears to have been taken, because you can see, I use my pointer, there's lots of different apartment buildings and stuff, but there's also lines of grass.
If you just keep the dogs quiet, I don't think she'll even notice you're there. Do the practice turkey.
And whatnot.
So go ahead.
So this slide's a little bit out of order. So this shows the 3:36 a.m. that matches up to the photo, and then the slide above it shows that they left Bentley Drive and continued westbound on Boyson Road.
Well, the Louisma phone left at that time.
Yes, yeah, the Louisma phone left.
And at what time is that heading them back westbound on Boyson Road?
That is at 3:35 a.m.
Oh, wait now. So that 3:35 a.m. it's noted on Boyson Road, and 3:36 a.m.
I'm getting hungry
Yes.
too.
Is that an indicator
I've
idle there?
No, I said that
What we
backwards. So
need.
I was thinking this was an error, but it actually wasn't an error. So I guess I called myself out when I didn't need to.
Oh,
Yeah, so they were approaching the apartments, arrived at the apartments, and then I presume the next slide will be them leaving the apartments, or somebody leaving the apartment.
All right, and here's the next
Yes.
slide. What are you depicting here?
Yes, I apologize. There's lots of data floating around in my head.
No problem.
This is
Oh,
the
no.
device traveling westbound on Boyson Road, and it's just west of Council Street. And so when you get there, you're kind of approaching the Hiawatha city limits.
And at what time is the device in that location?
3:30 or 3:45 a.m.
The next location you have indicated where that?
This is traveling north on North Center Point Road in Hiawatha, away from Boyson Road. So essentially, it looks like the device took a right off of Boyson onto North Center Point Road and traveled north.
And at what time is it traveling north on North Center Point Road from Boyson?
3:48 a.m.
And what do we have noted as the next location?
Well, we can all have a sigh of relief that we're finally back to the trailer park. And this is where we started. So that's why I put this in here. And if you scroll down, you can see the time is 3:49 a.m. And previous or subsequent location data shows that it just stays there. So that's why I picked this one, because it appears that the device stays there for a pretty good period of time.
Investigator Holst, does that conclude your interpretation of the findings that you made regarding location data on Mr. Louisma's phone that's been encompassed in safety exhibit number 27?
Yes.
So he went there, but we know this. This doesn't prove he did it.
Your Honor, unless you wanted to break now.
Why don't we go ahead and take our break? Jurors, please remember the admonition. Have a good break. We'll see you soon.
Whip.
All right, we're back on the record in FECR 153477. Investigator Holst, you're still under oath, and Mr. Maybanks, you can continue your examination.
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Holst, I'm going to shift topics here before we go into the next exhibit. In your training and experience as an ICAC investigator,
Yeah.
do you frequently actually handle the physical phones that are submitted to you in order to do the download?
Yes.
As part of your experience, have you had to attempt to examine and download information off of phones that are damaged?
Yes, that's very frequent that we have damaged phones.
Does that include Apple phones?
Yes.
In your background, education, and experience, have you had opportunity to examine Apple phones for presence of the function that has the crash detection software on it?
Yes.
And what do you know in your experience about what kind of event with the phone would trigger the crash detection?
So Apple tries to program their phones in a manner to not provide false positives, so false alerts, because as you can imagine, there could be a lot of them, because I drop my phone all the time. And so it uses not just one measure of what it believes might be a fall or an accident or whatever. It uses multiple ones. And so examples would be just like a phone knows if you're going up and down stairs, using a barometer for pressure, that type of thing. It can also use that to detect if there's motion from a standing position to a falling position, or if you're in a car, it can detect the forward movement and then a sudden stop, the deceleration of the car. It also uses a microphone, and it can detect, much like the glass break sensors that businesses have in their, or I have them in my home too. It can detect a breaking window versus somebody just dropping a toy on the floor. It uses a microphone to try to look at different frequencies that would be consistent with a crash or a fall. The example that I would give is I have an Apple Watch, which functions in a similar way to an Apple phone. And, I had to kill a fly the other day on my counter, and I slammed my hand down just like anybody would kill a fly. And it said, did you fall? Because it noticed a sudden deceleration of my hand. It heard a loud thump, which triggered the frequency. And it also knew that I was impacting something based not just on the deceleration, but just on the motion of my hand. And so that's what it does. So you do get false positives sometimes, but it tries to reduce that by using multiple data points.
And so what multiple data points would be used then within the internal operating system of the Apple iPhones to detect a crash in order to alert emergency contacts within that phone?
It would definitely be the motion sensors inside that detect a sudden slowdown, also impact sensors, and then the microphone would be important probably too.
So in order to eliminate any false positives, the events in your experience would have to be a drastic type of event that has that immediate deceleration or something that's more similar to a severe event than just incidental type handling.
Yeah, so it'd have to meet a certain threshold, to trigger that. And so, Apple doesn't tell us what that threshold is because it's proprietary, information for their company because they have competitors. But it meets a certain threshold that they've determined based on their research is appropriate to try to minimize.
What else do you kill a fly with? You can wash your hands. Do you Americans know about soap?
False positives and be more accurate about detecting actual falls. And to illustrate that, like my watch, when I told you that I killed a fly, it says, did you fall? And it's not just to make it so that it doesn't send a signal to 911. It also learns from that experience. And it collects all this data from all of our phones and our devices, and it tries to get better based on that data. So the longer that data is around, typically the better it is. And it's been around for a while.
So in your experience in dealing with Apple iPhones, would an incidental fall, just dropping a phone or even throwing a phone you had and land on the ground, be that type of event that would trigger a crash detection software?
I've dropped my phones, or I've dropped my personal phone countless times on my cement floor in my garage, and it's never done an SOS to 911. But I listen to the police radio in my office, and dispatch gets calls for service from Apple saying there's a crash detected, So I know that it happens, and that kind of shows you the difference between adding all these multiple factors than just one. So it's very smart data. I've never had mine do a false positive, just my watch.
Would one of the instances that would, in your experience, listening to the police scanner, but also as a computer forensic examiner, be a crushing type event of the phone?
It could, because a crushing event is going to put pressure and it's going to make a very loud noise. So it's going to hit multiple triggers. And so if you think about, they have some sort of threshold that it has to get to, whatever that is, that's going to get you there more likely than just a fall on its face or something like that. If you drop it, even from standing height, if you drop your phone, that's what I've done. And I've never had it go off. So a crushing, like if something crushes it or something runs it over or, whatever it might be, it would have all those factors involved together to meet that threshold.
So an event such as a car running over a phone, crushing it, would that be a type of event that would trigger that crash detection software in your experience?
Yeah, that's enough force and enough different variables that I would think that it would trigger it. I mean, I've never done the test on it. I haven't had a specific phone that's been run over and I saw it call, but I think based on my training experience, that would be a rational thought, is that if you run over a phone, it's going to trigger all those things and set it off.
Have you ever seen a phone before that has been crushed in that type of event or ran over?
Yes, I've seen crushed phones before.
Okay. May I approach witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Any of the witness what's been previously reduced to evidence is stated at 16E. Melody Hoffmanin, cell phone. You examine the cell phone for us, Investigator Bolton?
Yes.
In your training experience, is this cell phone, what kind of damage do you see on the cell phone being consistent with?
So the first thing that I saw was that there's damage to the back side of it and not necessarily to the front side of it. So you want to look at that damage a little bit closer. And if you're dropping a phone, typically the damage is going to start in a focused area and then spread out. And again, that you don't really necessarily need to be a cop to know that. That's kind of common sense. But what I noticed on that is that it is uniform damage, potentially crushing damage to the backside of the phone. The other thing I was looking at the end, the reason I took so long, is I don't see a lot of marks around the edge of the phone. So if you drop your phone face down, you could have, typically one part is going to hit first, and it's going to cause that focused damage that spreads out. But you're also usually going to get some type of damage to a corner of the phone. And I don't necessarily see the damage in the corner of the phone that would be as dramatic as the damage on the back of the phone. So to me, it seems like it would be consistent with crushing because it's uniform. Hopefully that makes sense. But
you can see on the back, it states it's at 16E, evidence of that crushing event here, the camera.
Yes, you can. Yeah. And there's a case on that phone, but it's my understanding that it was recovered without a case originally. So the case would obviously help a lot. But I mean, unless you're rich, you don't usually walk around with phones with no cases because if you drop it, I mean, this is what's going to happen. You're going to have the focused part. So what you're going to have is you're going to have like near the camera, maybe that gets damaged and they got to get a new phone. But I've seen cases where people intentionally try to destroy evidence for us and they've run over phones before. And what I've noticed is that it's consistent damage rather than the focus damage. So that's what stands out to me. I can't say for sure. I mean, there's no way, you know, maybe a scientist or an engineer could say for sure.
Objection,
but to me, based
speculation.
on my training experience, and I handle, you know, we get 10 to 15 phones a month. And I've been doing this since 2017. So I've handled a lot of phones. And to me, this looks consistent with a crushing damage. It could be something else, but I think it's consistent with that.
Do those scenarios include damage consistent with the phone being run over, as you see in 16?
Yes, because if you think about a tire, it's meant, I mean, it's just like if you drive over a nail, unless the nail's sticking straight up and goes into your tire, you could drive over a nail if it's on its side and the tire would just go over the nail and because it spreads out the pressure. So to me, this damage looks consistent with spreading pressure out over the entire device itself rather than a focused area. So that tips the scale more towards being run over with a tire or something like that versus dropping the phone.
In this case, if that phone did not have a case on it when it was ran over, if that would be the case, is that the type of damage you could see consistent with that event?
Yes, if you have a phone on your, or if you have a case on your device, you know, I don't think you see this much damage. They're pretty good cases these days, but without a case, the stuff is pretty brittle.
And is this also consistent with the type of damage you see that would trigger the crash detection software?
You know, experts are just, it takes so long, and I'm just going to skip till we get to some evidence because this is just, yes, we know there was a triggering.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Do you see State's Exhibit number 25, Investigator Holst?
I do.
State's Exhibit number 17, V1, has already been previously received as evidence in this case showing a female subject that was had duct tape around her mouth with her nasal cavity bleeding and also with hair in the duct tape area that was identified as being consistent with the appearance of Melody Hoffmanin. Did you perform a deeper dive into the defendant's phone to analyze the data behind this photograph that was found on his phone?
Yes, I did.
Oh, so he had a picture on his phone of her duct taped.
And does State's Exhibit number 25 then, is that a exhibit you generated in order to summarize large amounts of data into a more readable format so we can present your findings and explain it to the jury?
Yes.
Is that a fair and accurate copy of the report you put together?
Well, I only see the first page, but
We'll go ahead and scroll forward here.
yes, yes, it is.
Okay. Move to enter State's Exhibit number 25, Your Honor.
Any exhibit, objection 25.
No, Your Honor.
25 is admitted.
Permission to publish, Your Honor.
Publishing 25.
Thank you. Start with just kind of visually, when you first examined this photograph based upon your training and experience as a certified forensic examiner.
Yeah, finally we got to some hard evidence. Her duct taped on his phone. That's the first hard evidence we have of him being there when it happened.
Explain your initial observations of it from its appearance and the initial data.
Well, the first thing that strikes me is that you would expect more of a broader picture of the face. This appears to either be zoomed in or cropped in some way. I think it's less likely to be zoomed in simply because you do usually get a little bit of pixelation. But it looks to me like some sort of cropped image would be my first thought. The other things that strike me as a forensic examiner is I look at the file name and the file extension, things like that. So where most people look at the picture itself, I'm actually looking at the other stuff.
So your first observation then is, in your training experience, it looks like a photo that was cropped or in the process of being cropped?
Yeah, it would be consistent with that. You know, it could be a thumbnail image too that the system, generated. But with it being close up like that, I mean, if you think about when you take whoever takes a picture of whoever, this is not typically a picture that you would take this close up. There would be more of a camera view. I mean, I'm not a photographer, but there'd be more a wider view. So to me, it's either cropped or zoomed or maybe some type of a thumbnail. But I think it's more likely cropped or zoomed.
Okay. And then what is it about the file name of this document that you noted?
So Apple, and this is again on an iPhone, and so Apple names things in certain ways on iPhones. They're pretty consistent, and it's important to understand that Apple doesn't always tell us all this stuff. This is some of the information that we know about how Apple does things is through their developer documentation. So if I'm a guy that wants to make an app to run on an Apple iPhone, I have to know sort of how it works, and so I look at the developer information. But there's other things that we just don't know, and so we have to look at research. We have to look at experimentation to kind of get an idea of what Apple does and how they do it. So the first thing I see is the really long name at the top. It starts with 606 and ends with 0EC. That long string of numbers is consistent with what's called a globally unique identifier. which we usually refer to as a GUID, which is GUID. So we say it's a GUID. And what that is, it's just a algorithm or mathematical equation that produces this unique number. And there's a very low probability that that number will ever get generated again. And so it's kind of like a serial number. And operating systems oftentimes use that number to keep track of things. Whereas you or I might name a file, first grade graduation or high school graduation. Computers name it this way. And so it looks like a GUID, GUID. And then the file extension is a .png, and that's sometimes called a ping image. And when you save a phone, if I just take a picture of my daughter on my iPhone, I'm going to see it saved differently than this. The original picture is going to have it's not going to have the GUID, and it's also not going to have the file extension of.
That was a weird movie. It's one of those movies I can't figure out if it's a good or a bad movie. It's super slow, but I have a hard time watching that movie. I don't know if I like it or I don't like it. Maybe that's, I don't know.
PNG. A thumbnail of that picture, like in your photo gallery as you're scrolling, could have the PNG extension. A screenshot could have the PNG extension. But in an Apple operating system, the original picture does not have a PNG file extension applied to it. And so to me, those are significant. So this tells me, just by looking at it, that it's probably generated from a system side of the device rather than the user side of the device.
Okay, that's a lot of information. So we want to make sure we understand. I think you talked about this a little earlier in your testimony, right? So you're going to gather data through your extraction process. That's going to be, some of it is what the user is going to see on the interface, right?
Yes.
And some of it's going to be within the iOS, the internal operating system.
That's correct.
And so this is something that you found within the internal operating system.
Yes, and as you scroll down, you'll see there's a path that indicates that too. But just by looking at the file name in this case, you can tell that.
And that's what we're going to talk about next is the file path and what that told you about this photo.
If you scroll down just a little bit more where it says source, there you go. Okay, so there's a lot of things going on this slide, but the reason I put them on here is it's the easiest way I can explain this to anybody. There's not an easy way to explain it, but it's the easiest.
Feel free to use your laser pointer.
Oh yeah.
Bio
Sorry.
break.
Okay, so when we look right here, that's the file path that is related to the picture that we just saw. This first part, you'll see files full.zip. That kind of goes back to the full file system we talked about. So that is named by the extraction device, the cell write or the gray key device that does the extraction. The rest of it, the private /var/mobile/library/intent/images, and then has the file name. That's the full file path. So if we needed a map to find this thing, that's the map that we would use if we were a computer. As a user of the phone, if you could access this information, you could also follow that map to get there. But on an iPhone, you can't do that. On Android phones, it's a little bit easier sometimes. So you'll see that this 606 number is the same as the file number or the file name. That translates down into this second part of the slide where you see red and green, and you see it says artifact type pictures. It's got a small version of the pictures. It's got file name. This is what I was talking about between the GUID, which is this long number, and like if I take a picture on my phone. If I took a picture on my phone right now, I have an iPhone, it would get named something similar to IMG_0192.gpg. So that's why I put that in there.
So just so we kind of break it up a little bit and understand what we're talking about here. When you take a photo on your phone, does it create a file then or create an image that's saved as an IMG originally?
Yes, it's going to create an image that's saved usually as a JPG at the end, but it usually starts with IMG in the beginning. That's kind of a telltale sign of it.
And so the first two entries here in this initial table here, those are pictures.
Yes, and that's why I put them in there. They're not necessarily related to the case, but it's to show as an example. I mean, they are related in the way that the timestamp is similar, but it shows an example of user-generated pictures versus a system-generated picture.
Okay, so the first two entries are pictures that the user can see on the phone. The last one is something that was saved to the operating system.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. Go ahead and tell us about the time and date information there, if you're onto that or continue.
Sure. So if you look at, in this case, the created time, the last modified time, and the last access time, you'll see that all of them are basically the same, okay? As opposed to the picture that we saw before that had that 1969 date. So in this case, the date is 2/18/2024 at 4:05 a.m. in the morning. The 4:05 is important, but so is the seconds. So it's 4:05 a.m. with 32 seconds. That's when the file system wrote that to permanent storage on the device. That doesn't necessarily mean that's when that picture was created originally. It just means that's when the file system wrote it to the device. And that's important later. So if you can just remember 4:05:32 a.m., that's what's important.
Okay, so that's when the phone wrote this picture to the device.
That's correct.
Okay, so with that in mind, 4:05:32 a.m. Can you tell us then now, I think we're on to understanding what the user of the device was seeing when this phone was accessed?
Yes, so if you scroll down just a little bit, you can, there you go. Okay, so that 4:05:32, I highlighted on the screen here in blue. Okay. 4:05:32, that's the end date time here. And so I'll kind of start over. This particular one, it shows an artifact type, it shows a bundle ID, it shows a start time, an end time, and then some metadata. And so if you look, the end time is consistent with the picture time that we just saw. However, the start date time, or the start time, is 4:02:53. as opposed to 40532. So you think, okay, this lasted a little while. So what is this? And so that's where we look to the left. It says biome application focus. So it's BIOME application focus. The biome doesn't really matter so much, but the application focus is what the primary application was on your screen. Now, some of us realize that these days you can have maybe a video playing in a little corner and you can still be scrolling on your screen. So that happens sometimes, but generally speaking, this is what application is going to be the focus of the user. So the user is going to be seeing this right here, which is com.apple.mobile slideshow. And again, this is all like programming stuff, so that's why it's not very readable. So what I do is I go in and I look and I say, well, what was the user device looking at around this time? Because that's what I want to know. Because what I know is the picture is system generated, so I want to know what was the user doing around that time. And so I put this in here as an example. All these bundle IDs are not very descriptive. I mean, some of them are. One of them says Facebook Messenger, but this top one, it says com.toyoagroup.peekaboo, which sounds kind of funny, but that is a name for an actual application. And that is another name for the Snapchat application. And so I recognize that because, I've looked at other devices, but when I first saw that, I thought, well, what's peekaboo? I don't know that device. Well, it matches up to the common name that we would see for an application. The second one, and I'm not going to read all of these because I feel like that's a lot of typing for the court reporter, but the springboard, when you see springboard, that is when you go to your home screen on your phone. And it's a springboard to other things. That's how I think of it.
Okay, just so we can kind of do this in a question answer format and break it up a little bit here.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Why don't we do it this way here? In this,
You said finally some evidence. Does that mean I don't need to go back and watch the cell phone testimony? I fell asleep. The cell phone testimony was the cell phone moved. And if you go back to the previous witness, that some people had a conversation. We are not seeing the picture they are showing right now, which is apparently a Snapchat of Melody with duct tape around her face. Luckily, we are not seeing that. But again today, I feel like we wasted. This is 6 hours and 46 minutes into it. And we really don't know anything other than the phone has moved. And now, finally, that he has a photo of her with the tape around her face. This expert is really hard to stay focused on. And I can't go on Twitter and yell at politicians because I'm banned on Twitter. That's what I normally do when I get bored, is find a politician and call an idiot. But because I said, go sit on a cactus, I'm banned on TwitTwit. But thank you, Sandy D.
particular table here that we're talking about, this is what the user of the phone sees on their phone.
That is correct.
And so at February 18th at 3:59 a.m., the user is on the Snapchat app.
That's correct.
Okay. So let's go through this then, and you can.
Yes, I got banned on TwitTwit today because I answered someone who gave me an advice I found stupid, said, go sit on a cactus. Go find a cactus and sit on it. That is, what are they saying? They are saying, after a thorough look at your, we have decided that your account violates the rules. I am temporarily in a written protection state, which means I can't post, repost, or like content. I have applied. I don't think you're doing your job correctly. Written that I want a refund for the 12 hours I've been banned because I pay for that shit. And again, it's not hate speech to say someone go sit on a cactus. I can go watch videos of the children uncensored in the Delphi case on the TwitTwit, but go sit on a cactus made me, and it was an insta ban. I bet you a lot of people have been reporting my account, and it was just this that made the AI decide I violated the rules. I said way worse things the last couple of days. I think I've told people to jump in a lake, and I'm not a nice guy on TwitTwit. What else have I said to people? I've told Stephen King that he's wrong. Maybe that's why I said to Andy Dufresne that's not how court works. I talked about baking. And I called Plevin the King Grifter. No lie too big if you can make it a buck. You could learn a lot from Randy about facts, research, and the truth. I think that's when people started reporting me because I called Plevin the yellow cottage cheese King Grifter because he is the Emperor Grifter.
Explain it to us in that way and then add any other detail. How does that sound?
Sure. And we don't necessarily have to go through all of them. I just put them in here as a visual so that people can kind of have a reference of different things. So whatever you want to ask me about is fine.
So the next entry here at 4:00 a.m. on the dot, here is Springboard App Library. What's that?
That is the home screen. And what
It's absolutely not homophobic. It would be homophobic if I said, if you like it when you sit on it, something's wrong with you. That would probably be homophobic. But they said it was a violent utterance, and it's not. If I said, I will hit you with a cacti or force a cacti into parts of you, that could be construed as violent. I just said it was acupuncture release o'clock. That's what I wanted to do. There's no way it's homophobic. A good one is jump in a lake with a carnivorous fish. I normally said go play in the harbor.
you'll see is the end date time usually matches up to the
Yeah,
start
they'll
date
run
time,
on
generally
the.
speaking.
So users on
On the horn.
Snapchat goes back to home screen.
Yes,
And then right in that same, literally instantaneously, Facebook Messenger. What's that?
that's correct. And that can happen if, let's say, that the Facebook Messenger was already open when you just swipe over to another app. So it's not necessarily as cumbersome as going back to the home screen and going and tapping something. So that's why you see the date, or I'm sorry, the time is so quick. It's because you can just be switching between apps, which is a lot faster than trying to navigate to the app.
Is that like when you have your phone open with a bunch of apps and you can slide and just tap?
Yes, and that's referred to as the Apple app carousel, like a carousel that goes around.
I didn't know that. Okay. So then after Facebook Messenger is then briefly accessed or comes up on the phone, then what happens next?
Yeah, you'll see a pattern here. You'll see the springboard again. So they're going to the springboard, and that takes you to the next application, which is Instagram.
So Instagram is then activated on the phone or is in the carousel, whatever it may be.
Yeah, it is the app focus at that time. So they may have navigated to it, but it is now the app focus. So it's the application that's being used by the user.
And then we're back to the home screen. This
Yes.
is all happening in like a second's worth of time. Right?
Yes.
And then to this mobile slideshow, what's that?
Yes. Well, YouTube hasn't. It's only TwitTwit. It's not allowed.
Mobile slideshow is your photo gallery on your Apple iPhone. So that's kind of what we're getting to because now we want to talk about pictures, right?
So now we know how we got there. So why don't you tell us what's happening now?
All right. So from 4:02:53 a.m. to 4:05:32 a.m., the user of the device had the photo app as the primary app in focus. And so you might remember 4:05:32 as the date or the timestamp on that picture that we just saw.
Okay. So just for that, those 2 minutes there, the phone app has been accessed, is open on it's seen on the device.
Yes, and that kind of goes into what the next. If you scroll down just a little bit, it goes into the next one. If you'd like me to explain that,
Okay. Where do you want me to
just scroll down a little bit. Yeah, to where they're all repeated, just like this.
Okay.
So
gotcha.
yeah.
All right, so what's happening then at 4 a.m. in the photo app?
So on this, the reason I put this in here is it shows that there's lots of swiping going on, and it's basically the same event going over and over again. You'll notice they're not much different other than the timestamps. So I show this just because you can actually see if the photo gallery is being used. So they're not just looking at a still photo gallery; they're actually sliding on the screen or manipulating in some way, and so that gets logged. Some of these times are a little bit earlier than what we talked about, but it's just to give you a pattern to show you. So the individual ones are not that important, but just to show you a pattern.
Is this consistent with swiping photos in the photo library?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
And you have times noted here from 4 a.m. 4:06 all the way to 4:04:30.
That's correct. And there's other things that happen in between there, but I just use this as an example to show how granular some of the information is. And then unfortunately, other information isn't as granular. Sometimes we have to extrapolate a little bit.
Should we go back up now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I think where we left off here was we hadn't gotten to whatever screenshot services.
Yeah, so screenshot services, and then if you look to the right of it, it says SB, so that's Springboard, full screen switcher, scene, live, content, overlay. That is believed, and I say believed because, again, Apple doesn't necessarily always tell us this stuff, but we know based on forensic researchers that do the testing on a known action on the phone, and then they look at what the logged action is. We know that this is typically when you're either showing that app carousel, or you're choosing your app, you're swiping, or there's an overlay of one image or one particular app over top of another. So an example of that would be a screenshot. Or an example is if you want to crop a photo, usually when you hit the edit of the crop button, it shrinks it down just a little bit, puts it in a different display. And so that would be an example of an overlay. So we can't say for sure what this was, but we have some ideas based on the context of the other activity that's going on the phone.
I don't know. It could
this
be.
photo overlay
Sure.
is
I don't know what it.
Sorry, at
Based on
4:02
my
a.m.
experience, it could
Then,
be. This isn't a
4:02
strong
a.m.,
witness.
4:02:53 there. That's the overlay you're talking about. That's consistent with one app being over another. screenshot, copy on the photo being done?
Yes, those are the most likely explanation for it. It's not all inclusive, but in the context of the other activity on the phone, that is the most likely thing that's going on, is one of those three things.
And then at 4:02:53 a.m., what's taking place?
So at 4:02:53, the focus becomes the photo roll again. So if there's a screenshot being taken and the user is done with that screenshot or editing or whatever the cropping might be, they're going back to the actual photo roll, and that's the application that's in focus.
So the photo roll is then the focus on the screen that's it's on the interface the user's seen at this point in time.
Yes, until 4:05:32.
And that's the time you told us to remember, right?
Yes.
Okay. So explain to us what happens at 4:05:32.
I can't enjoy it because I want to yell at people. I'm such a nice guy on a screen because I'll tell people to go sit on different objects. So I need my outlet. I could
Well,
just
we
go
see-
to bed now.
Yeah, so we see that the mobile slideshow ended at 4:05:32 and transitioned to Facebook Messenger. And
Welcome
that
to the club.
timestamp, the 4:05:32, is the exact same timestamp as the photo that we talked about. And so based on that information, that would be consistent with a system event. Again, not the user, but the system writing a file that could be in memory, which is just temporary. It would be consistent with it writing the file on the actual system, which we know happened with that photo because of the timestamp. But what's significant about this is that when you end an application, oftentimes that's when it takes temporary data and writes it to permanent storage. So it holds it up in the air, if you will, like you're juggling. And then when you're done with that application, it all drops down. And that's when the timestamp gets applied. So when I'm looking at this in context of all of the data, to me, that looks like a connection between the activity on the phone and the timestamp on the picture.
So what that looks like to you then is when this photo is in the process of through the cropping and whatnot, and that there was a change in the app, and then the photo at that point in time went into the system so to be held for potential use?
Yes, it gets held in a temporary storage area until it's purged. And some of the other information below this will kind of help us understand what triggers that system action versus a user action. So I know it's a little confusing, but if you scroll down, it'll kind of show.
Maybe that was Facebook Messenger have to do with this.
I heard you say Facebook Messenger, but
Yeah, what does that have to do with?
This is 7 hours into court day. The jury is listening to this guy. Other than the picture of her with duct tape, he's talking about system action, user actions, flipping through apps, which is very interesting. But I don't know why it's interesting, because he can't tell me anything other than if you look at that, and that could be when the app is closed. That's normally, maybe that's why, but he was also going back and forth. State and defense experts. In 2025, let's make a deal. All of you go to, I don't know if you need a speech class or an acting class or whatever you need, but everything you find interesting about your specific area is the most boring to 95% of every other person in the world. Because you are experts in an area where you need experts because no one else knows anything about it. So stop trying to make it sound cool that you look at artifacts that we don't call artifacts, because some people didn't like it when we called it artifacts. So we now call it incidents, which is incidents as an artifact. And here you see an artifact. Oh no, an incident. And then I just went back to call it an artifacts all the time after talking a lot about I don't call them artifacts anymore, because then people don't think it's as valuable. This entire, I don't know how long this guy has been up here. He's been up there for at least an hour. This could have been, if they had found a not nerd to present it, have this guy relay it to somebody, and then he could present it. The problem is all these nerds are specialists, and they're brainiacs. But the rest of us, we're kind of simple folks. And my brain went on vacation when you started talking about how important a certain time was, and you never told me why. And it's not that important. It's just that that's when the application was closed. You could have said that. So please, America, please, dear lawyers of America, go teach your experts to be engaging and interesting. Look at the ARCA guys. I don't know if they are the best in the world, but they are the best witnesses in the world. And you don't need expert who knows everything about quantum physics. You need experts who can tell the jury about quantum physics. So in my Christmas gift this year, I want every expert next year to be forced to wear a shock collar, and we can super chat. And every time we super chat $5, we can give him a shock so he can stop talking about, oh, this is very interesting, because it's never interesting. It's always really, 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 really boring. Probably not a Russian bot understand this because he knows something about computers. I'm a baker. I heard something about seeing a picture on his phone with her with duct tape around her mouth. That's evidence to me. The rest of it, I'm sorry.
What's going on with that at the same time?
Yep. So that's the app that was transitioned to at 40533, which is just one second after 40532. And so they went from the slideshow, which is the photo gallery. They used the springboard to get to Facebook Messenger, and then used that from 40533 to 40546.
So the phone went from having photo access to switching the app to Facebook Messenger,
Yes.
which creates the event that sends the photo to the system.
Most likely, yes. That initial.
And again, most likely, possible could be either they say yes or no, or you don't try to get it in there, because all of this is reasonable doubt.
Image was probably being held in the phone's temporary memory until it didn't need it anymore. And that may be because the user discarded it or decided they didn't want to crop it, or they didn't want to keep the screenshot. Because if you take a screenshot or you crop an image, you have an option to just send it to the trash. And so based on all this information, I think that explanation would make a lot of sense. I'm sorry. The explanation of taking a screenshot or trying to crop something and then discarding that is rather than saving it to your actual photo roll. And that's not something we can say for certain. But when you look at all of the information,
Yes.
it is consistent with that type of action.
The user has the photo up, switches the app to Facebook Messenger. Does the phone anticipate that maybe the user wants to do something with that crop image?
Yes. So there's something called app intents, which is INTENTS.
Do you need me to change to a different location on it?
No, it's okay for right now. You remember the file path had the word intents in it for that picture. And what Apple intents do is they share information from one application to another for security purposes. So instead of Facebook Messenger talking directly to your text messages, and sharing things, it has a go-between, and that's the Apple intents. And those get activated in the background. The user doesn't know what's going on. And they can get activated manually by the user, trying to share something, or the system can anticipate that you're about to do something, and so it prepares for that. And that goes back to what we were talking about, is they're trying to make the user experience better for you and make you buy the product. So that's why that's happening. So when an Apple intent occurs, it's trying to prepare data to predict what you're going to do next. So if I had a picture on my phone and I tapped the share button, or I tapped the crop button, or I took a screenshot, that could activate an Apple intent, especially the sharing part, because if you're about to share it, Apple it puts it in a smaller image and it has to get ready to send that to another app. And that's probably what's going on in the background, is that Apple is anticipating it. It doesn't necessarily mean that the user intended to do that, but it may be predicting that the user wants to do that. So it could be either or.
Does that scenario become more likely when something like Facebook Messenger is activated?
Yes, I mean, that would be one of the options, because if you tap on a picture and say you take a screenshot or you crop something, and then you either have the option to save it, delete it, or send it to somebody, that would be one of the routes that you could send it. And again, the operating system prepares for that event. And if it never happens, the user doesn't even know that it saved it somewhere. And then it gets purged out later when the phone determines it's the right time to purge that particular folder.
So we have down here another table, knowledge application activities. Is that something you want to talk about now? Or?
No, that was just an example, so we can scroll down further.
Have you finished talking about the information up here?
Yes, if you could scroll down. These next two pictures, the one that says local time and artifact type, those are the two that I'd like to talk about.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so we talked earlier about how my program is showing me things from a database, and a database table is where they're coming from. So this right here looks different than the other ones. Doesn't have any color on it because it's from a database table, as opposed to this that has the colors on it. That's from my actual program that I'm using to analyze the data. And so
Text of this case, it's consistent with the original E1
Snapchat number.
What would be the reason, in your experience, why there would only be a Snapchat number instead of a username?
The times that I've seen that happen is when the software
Camera app had been activated. With regard to the timestamps that we see on this document, what is your overall impression of what was occurring at 4:05:32 on this phone?
that photo was getting written, but that photo had to have come from somewhere. And I did not find that same photo or a version of it in the user-facing data. So in other words, it wasn't in the photo gallery, and it wasn't in the deleted folder either, because I can recover the deleted folder. It's only when you permanently delete it that I can't recover it. And so it wasn't user-facing, but because it's in the app intents, it had to have been user-facing at some point. And that's the key to it. Is the question we always have, especially with the types of cases that I usually do, is because it's child pornography cases, is did the user know that picture was on their phone? And that's what everybody wants to know. And so we do this all the time to try to demonstrate whether or not there's evidence of it. Sometimes there's
no evidence at all. You just don't know.
In this case, you find evidence that it was user-facing.
Yeah, this had to have been user-facing at some point. And when you put all these data points together, it shows a sequence of events where a picture, or an original picture, was interacted with and was either cropped or shared or something like that. And then that picture was discarded at some point, whether it was just a screenshot that was discarded or it was the original picture that got discarded, whatever it was. Those pictures got discarded. The file got written to the temporary file storage, and the user went on to do other things and had no idea that the picture that they intended to delete was still on the system. And so that's pretty key because, if it was just the phone downloading the picture on its own, we want to know that. But there's indications here that a user was interacting with that picture at some point, or the original picture at some point.
At the same time, there's a message coming in from Facebook Messenger that says good day.
Yes, and that's important because we do have periods of time where on other cases, we see that there's all these system events happening, and then there's maybe a picture somewhere. Well, we would never view that as evidence because the user isn't interacting with the phone. But if there's evidence that the user is interacting with the phone at the same time, that's significant in the investigation.
Have we covered everything in this exhibit, you think?
I think so.
Okay, all right. We can take this exhibit down now. Just maybe a couple more questions here before we have to break.
Yes, I was muted because I yelled.
Whether the camera app had been activated key times in this case.
Yes, it was activated at 2 different locations at 2 different times.
And what were the 2 different?
Yes, it was a recovered part of a photo is what I understood, because it showed signs that it had been cropped. So that's what I got from it, but it took him an hour to get there. I got a good brain. Well, I could borrow it maybe. It was supposed to have been deleted, but it stays in the background.
Locations and times when the camera app of the phone was located, but was activated over that picture.
It was activated at Morgan Creek Park twice, once towards the time that the device arrived and once towards the time the device was likely leaving. And the other time was at the Lily Farm. That was once.
So twice at Morgan Creek Park, the camera app was activated, and once at Lily Farm.
That's correct.
And if that picture was ultimately deleted from the device, you wouldn't have evidence of a photo on the phone from those events.
Say that again.
So if a picture was taken at that time, but then later deleted as we described, you wouldn't be able to find that picture.
That's correct. Yeah, once that's permanently deleted, not in the deleted folder, but permanently deleted, we wouldn't be able to find that.
And if any amount of photos were taken, would you be able to know how many were deleted?
I saw in the logs that they weren't all here, but I saw in the logs that there were 2 photos deleted in that time period. So there's 2 deletion events. We only showed you one on the screen just to kind of keep it condensed. But there, in the full record, there's 2 deletions of photos, which would be consistent with an original photo and a cropped photo being deleted. Now, I can't say that for sure. I always try to let people know that you have to look at this stuff in context.
Well, in context of this case, it's consistent with the original and the cropped photo.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Yeah.
Maybe which one?
Yes, you may.
You see that photo?
Yes, I do.
And do you recognize it?
Yes, this is a document that I prepared.
And where did you come upon this, the information in this document in order to prepare it?
This was from the same device we've been talking about, and it's from specifically the Snapchat application.
So this exhibit comes from the Snapchat application of the Louisma device.
That's correct.
And does this contain a conversation on Snapchat?
It does.
And what time does this conversation commence?
The timestamp is 11:23 p.m. on February.
No, but we can't do that because the only time we have on the picture is when it's stored in the file. Because the iOS system does something to something, so we don't know when it's taken. We know the camera application had been used 3 times, but that partial picture is stored on the phone at 4:36:05 or whatever it is, which is after the deed, because that happened before 3:30, as we know from the phone being back at the trailer park at that time. So no, we're not. The timestamp doesn't add up because this is actually kind of like the "How's long to die in the cold." When does it store on the system? In Jen McCabe's case, a search happens 4 hours before it happens. She did it at 6 in the morning, but the phone thought she did it at 2 in the night because that makes sense. In this case, somewhere between X and Y, a picture was taken, cropped, attempted deleted, and then the phone stores it without their knowledge in the background at around 4:30 in the morning. We know the phone was back at the trailer park at 3:36, so an hour before the phone chooses to store it. So it's not taken. Well, it must have been taken at the time before she passes away, or she has passed away, but it's not stored in the phone in a way so you can say at what time it happened.
February 17th.
And what time does the conversation conclude?
You'd have to scroll down, I apologize.
Gotcha.
11:24 p.m. on the 17th.
Are you able to tell who is involved in this conversation?
Yes, there are two
No, the crossed phone was Melody's. This phone was Louisma's.
different users involved in this conversation.
And are they color coded?
They are. One is in red and one is in black and also blue. When people see it, they'll understand what I mean.
And what is the name of the Snapchat user in red?
In red is KXNGZOE1.
And are you able to tell the any information about the user in blue?
That has a actual username or user identifier that Snapchat uses to keep track of us. It's like a serial number. So it doesn't have the common name that you and I would see for using the app. It has the Snapchat number.
What would be a reason in your experience why there would only be a Snapchat number instead of a username?
The times that I have seen that happen is when the software is not able to make a connection between a contact in your Snapchat contacts and that number anymore. Because when it displays it to me, it makes that connection in the background and says, here's John and here's Jeff, talking to each other. In this case, if you deleted John out of the Snapchat contacts or for some reason the software wasn't able to find it, it would just put a user ID in lieu of the common name.
So if the Snapchat account where this came from eliminated or removed, this the person in blue is a contact, then we would only come up with this Snapchat ID information, not their username.
Yes, that scenario would fit.
Move to Interstate Exhibit number 26. Your Honor.
Any objection to 26?
Your Honor, may we approach?
You may.
Is it third-party application-based photo? He couldn't tell us which application stored it. He could just see that it had been stored.
No objection, Your Honor.
26 is admitted.
Here we go, Your Honor.
26 is published.
And scrolling to the top here, Investigator Holston, this begins with that user in blue that has the Snapchat ID number 1123 in 46 seconds. What does the user in blue say?
And the user in blue says, how long are you going to be? Question mark.
And within a couple of seconds, KXNGZOE1 responds by saying what?
Not long.
And then how does the user in blue respond then within a couple more seconds?
Do you just want me to meet you at Casey's, which is spelled in this case CAYCES?
And then within just a few more seconds there, how does KXNGZOE1 respond?
It says just to Wendy
And within a couple more seconds, how does blue user respond?
with the letter K.
Then-
Okay.
Then a couple seconds later, how does KXNGZOE1 respond?
The one by you, the letter U, is close. CLOSE.
And how does the blue responder or the blue user respond to that?
Responds yes.
And then within a couple seconds, about 3 seconds, then how does KXNGZOE1 respond to that?
Just, JUS, come where I always be.
And then how does KXNGZOE1 respond?
They also follow up with hurry up.
And then finally, the last message by the user in blue at 11:24 and 27 seconds is what?
Okay.
And I think that's it for this exhibit. Your Honor, the state may reserve this witness for further testimony, but at this time, we have no further questions.
All right, so jurors, we've reached the end of the day and the end of the week. I want to remind you that Monday is Veterans Day and courthouse is closed on Monday. So as you call, you're gonna have a 3-day weekend. And so I hope you enjoy that. I don't know if you have work obligations, so.
Jeepers creepers. This case is going nowhere slowly. Or if I took a picture of Baker's feet, went and got a turkey, started the process of rendering it inedible, then saved the picture, what time is saved? Well, it depends on when it stores it in the background, because you could have thought that you hit save, but because there was a snack up in your phone, it'll still be in your photo app, but it wouldn't have stored in the database. So it depends on that. This case has been all the days we have been on speed runs have been one big waste of time. All of it could have been done in one day if they had just told the witnesses to tell a quick and easy story. It's taking everyone so effing long just to put in nothing. But I think they need to do it because they have nothing. They were supposed to end this week. That's what they told the judge. We will be done by Friday. I don't know how far they are into this. There's no DNA. Yes, he bought the machete. He has a picture on his phone that they can't tell us when, how, what it was. But that aligns with him saying, I was there, which is still a felony, felony A level, felony A, I don't know what you call it, but the highest lifetime in prison. But I just don't see him as the one who did the choppity chop. And it's been a week. whatever we've been talking about has been Van Patten. The guy who was in here testifying today, who stayed at his house, it was Van Patten. He never saw Louisma at his house. Why was he a witness in this case then? Other than to confuse the jury and then in the end try to put it all together in the closing by making up some kind of story. I really don't, I don't see the clear picture. Yes, but they will also automatically store later, and if you try to delete them, they can store. I don't get it, and I just watched 2 hours of a man trying to explain it. Do we know if the defense is calling witnesses? Absolutely not, because we haven't started the defense so far. They do this thing on purpose to distract from the minimal facts about the murder. It's the thing I'm always saying that this is what the state is doing. They have all of this evidence that's nothing, and then they have this one piece of evidence, and then you go through all of this and say, is that really anything? And so, oh yeah, because remember there was this really, really good piece of evidence. So all the other evidence must be good as well. We see it in so many cases, and I don't like it when they do it. Oh yeah. They have all your smexy pics that you sent me is also shared with Apple. It'll be the same problem that you don't know when it puts it on the hard drive. It'll do it at some point, but I don't understand. Yes, so far I can go as he's an accomplice to kidnapping and murder, because he was there when it happened. That's accomplice, but that's not what he's charged with. And I can't see them so far. To me, they haven't proven he's done it, and I might be wrong and didn't see it, but the witnesses is so much of nothing. But the good thing about a whole lot of nothing is if you are awake tonight at 11 Eastern, I will be starting another of the Baker at Night streams where we do absolutely nothing like this, where we just sit around, find something to talk about. Maybe just me yelling for an hour about my Twitter being, so I have to tell all of you to sit on cacti, just to get it out of my system. It's something I try to do 3 times a week. Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, I'll do these about an hour chit chats to put you into bed, because it's 11:30. I'm trying to figure out what time. It depends on how I get to bed. But hopefully you'll stop by and entertain me a little bit while I get out of bed and you get into bed. And if you're an Aussie, that you're getting home from work. Do I want Apple CarPlay in your new car if you use Android? Well, it can't connect to it, so I wouldn't do it. That means guilty, though. Well, not in the charges brought against him. That's my problem. They charged him with something that they haven't proven. So, yeah. I'll do it if it makes you laugh. Well, I never laugh, so but you can make me chuckle. The rest of you, don't go sit on a cacti, but stop by if you're up at that late hour. I know Brandon is about to go to bed now, but the rest of you might be up at 11 Eastern, whatever else it is. That's 8 o'clock Western. And we'll do a whole lot of nothing and have fun, because that's my start to a new week. So go out there, have fun, enjoy the Sunday, watch your football team lose like I will with the Giants, or maybe you're lucky and you win like the Ohio State. See you all later.
What exhibit are you referring to?
I'm going to make this 100, Your Honor.
All right.
100.
100.
Because it is 100%
100%.
correct.
So you literally built a cannon Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
All right, I'm in love.
Go back. Please do that again. Oh, that was the cutest thing I've ever seen.
While I'm waiting for this, did you, whether it's true or not, believe that Mr. Randolph had slept with your wife?
I wouldn't have cared.
You wouldn't have cared?
No.
Did you believe he had slept with your wife?
No.
Did you believe he slept with your mother-in-law?
Probably did.